Okay, good.
There's so much stuff here.
I know.
Welcome to Contra Gentiles, Season 3, Episode 36. Is that what I told you?
Yeah, I think so.
Which what I think will be the final episode of Season 3,
Yeah.
logically.
Yep.
And our 100th recording as Contra Gentiles. Is that weird to you a little bit? Maybe not weird.
Yeah.
Weird, you wouldn't like that word, but...
It's good.
Yeah. How do you feel?
Good.
Should we share reflections on our time doing this, or would that be gay?
No, we should.
Okay.
And share wine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as if we don't do that literally every time. I did. Did you see which one I picked here?
Yes, yeah.
You remember if anyone's gone back and listened to the...
When we used to announce the wine.
Yes, the based pilot. Tonight's wine is Michael David Joint's Petite Petit. Or as other people might call it. So this is an if you know, you know moment.
Yes. Cheers. Oh, yeah.
Season 1, Episode 1, the Petite Petit, the Petit Petit. Anyway, so how do you, how do you feel about this being the number one? I don't know if I thought we'd quit first.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
I just figured life would get in the way.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like it's tried.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess...
We're just pathologically obsessed with not quitting.
Yeah, I guess I normally see something to the end, so something drastic has to happen for something...
What's the end?
Quit.
What do you mean the end?
Like
Literally one of us has to die.
Yeah, or move.
Or, yeah.
There has to be something so dramatic where it cannot happen anymore.
Yeah.
If not, I just keep going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of the success.
Oh, I did the thing. Where is it? Okay. Sorry. No, yeah. Yeah, I just didn't think that. I feel like kind of by our own design, we've had some adversity in the podcasting game based on as a result of our, relationships with different people and stuff.
Right.
I just kind of figured this would die out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Not that I can...
We should reflect on that part a little bit. We don't have to name names. But
Okay, yeah. Well, people know.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we start our little tiny show. We got to start podcasting with, bigger names than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decide they hate us. And speaking of which, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, if you'd be willing to go throw us a 5-star review, because we got review bombed one time.
Oh, yes, by the people who got mad at us.
Yes, yeah. People know. Oh, my God, I spilled my wine. I'm not even drunk. I was playing with it.
So, yeah, that would be nice if people could at least leave us some good reviews.
I know, yes. It's just Apple Podcast. Everything else is fine.
Yeah. Because they were just being dicks.
Yeah. Whatever. It's fine. But, yeah, I feel like...
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting because, I mean, even until now, I don't necessarily hate the ones who got mad at us for whatever reason.
Well, the Thaddeus Russell thing was...
With that, I just don't like...
No, I know, but it happened after that.
It happened because,
people,
he was the clutch of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was just, in just all honesty, I think he's...
We're far enough out, we can just talk about it.
Yeah.
It's over a year
I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. I guess he's a moron. He's moronic.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, people know that.
Yeah. And so he's so upsettingly stupid and smug about it that that was just fun. In the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the end, it just because, we just got back and forth with him a little bit and then he got quiet.
Well, so for people that don't know, we had what we thought would be a little, a big break recording with Thaddeus Russell. But the first time we recorded with him, it was so contentious and towards the end hostile that he lost his audio, quote unquote, 18 hours after we were done recording. He hung the call up. It was a whole thing. But, it kind of destroyed our standing in our circle forever, which is fine. That's what it is. What it is. What happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, most friends know that now.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't. We have so many listeners that I don't know.
Yeah, because we never released any of the audio.
Well, we only have our half of the audio because
I
I
still
was an
don't
idiot.
care,
You know,
yeah.
I know. Should we?
I still think we should.
Okay.
Yes. I think it was an interesting discussion.
Yeah, your rant about how anyone who thinks like him is better off dead at the end, like. It was the moment. It was the moment where you guys were going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and he kept going. I don't know if that's true. I can't know if that's true. And you're like, well, is it true that you can't know that that's true? And he'd be like, well, I don't know if that's true. And you'd be like, well, is it true that you can't know that you can't know that it's? It was a whole, the whole back and forth, and then it was getting so heated that I tried to back everybody off. And
I know.
We're talking about universal truth, and I tried to get you said like, what's a universal truth we can analyze? You know, it's just like, what's a universal truth that we can analyze? Just because what you're saying is true, but it's not getting, the conversation we're having is not productive. So what's something maybe we could analyze as an example of what you're saying? And you went, things are true. I was like, no. What's another? And then you were like, and then you started thinking, and then he said, this isn't going well for you, Jeremy. And then you went, oh, okay. I was like, oh, well, I can't moderate this anymore. I will say we do have our half of the audio, but we don't.
Yeah.
It was unreleasable as a full episode, but.
Yeah. But I do think, people should give it a listen because in the end of the day, I think
I could just put it out on the feed. And
because what people can really get out of it is that it's, I'm sure most of our listeners know this by now, but the entire postmodern epistemic relativism is so bizarre that anybody who begins to make any such claims can never really fully articulate really anything at all, or believe anything at all, or believe that they believe anything at all, or that they believe that they don't believe anything at all. And that it goes into a state of madness that when you try to discuss it with these people, they want to make positive claims, they want to make affirmative claims, but they really can't in the end. And but yet in their inability to make affirmative claims, that will always be in itself something affirmative. Mm-hmm. And so it really goes back down to the nature of propositions. And I think I remember I said this to him, I just said, well, it seems like you don't understand elementary logic. Yeah. And then he thought I was talking about elementary school. I was like, no. I mean, the elements, the base.
Well, he thought we were Jews.
Yes, yeah.
Because of the Gentiles thing, but then said that he taught Aquinas at the university.
Right, yeah. And I think even for some of our listeners, it would be something for them just to learn. It's like elementary logic is actually interesting. It might seem dry at first, but the fact that then you begin to comprehend what is the very nature of what you're doing at all whenever you're discussing something is actually quite an interesting topic. Mm-hmm. Because, it's like when you make a proposition, when you make a statement, it carries itself necessary truth value. Mm-hmm. And when epistemic relativist tries to negate a truth, it still in itself carries a truth value. And so when you're discussing like with atheists or whatever, it's always the same problem. It's like so like the modern atheist, the contemporary atheist wants to say, well, we don't claim that there is no God. We just claim that that there is sufficient evidence to show that there is a God. Yeah. And they want to make this seem as if this proposition has no truth value. Yeah. It's like, no, even when you make that statement, there's a truth value to your statement. You can't make a statement without that. It's just part of its nature. And so when you have the basic laws of logic, when you have the law of excluded middle, when you have the law of identity and the law of non-contradiction, that is the basis for every single statement that anybody ever makes, that you begin to analyze whether it's coherent or not. Mm-hmm. And many times conversations can either help with the discussion just by going to that basic part of just any kind of discussion, or you can begin to excuse anything the person says, because at that point, if they cannot get that, if an individual, especially if he constitutes himself as an intellectual, a professor, And he does not understand that a proposition always carries its self-inherent truth value.
Yeah.
And then there's no reason to take anything serious after that, because anything that comes out of his mouth will be incoherent.
What was it? If a kid is a stick and pretends it's a spaceship, it's literally a spaceship.
Gosh, I can't believe you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact this is all lost to
Yeah.
the ether is upsetting.
Yeah.
Well, he was a dick to Anne Marie too, and that would really pissed me off.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was
That's
just
why she quit the show. She couldn't handle
Yeah.
it. She didn't want to deal with the
yeah.
the negative side of interacting with people when it doesn't go well.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole.
I know.
It changed the entire show for like a
Yeah, it
while,
did.
but
Yeah. But it was it's an interesting episode, and I think because this is the 100th episode and was such a pinnacle point of our show, I do think that the audience should hear it.
okay.
Yeah, just release it and just be like, here's the lost episode.
Yeah. Well, our half of it's not even his audio.
It doesn't matter. At that
You can
point.
hear. You actually can hear him because I had headphone bleed.
Yeah.
You could
Oh,
actually
right.
hear him going, "This isn't going well for you, Jeremy." Like in the. You can
yeah.
actually hear him like in the little tiny mouse voice say it's fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to.
I know, but
We don't dwell on it. I don't even think about that anymore. But it's just reflecting back and stuff.
Yeah,
But-
no. But it's 100th episode, so I think it's
No,
good
I know. I'm
reflect
trying to
back,
think. Yeah, it's probably the biggest. That was the biggest negative experience of doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
This was the biggest.
I remember
turmoil,
our
but-
first few episodes.
Yeah.
It was like constantly about sex
Well, yeah, Nazis.
and Nazis. Yeah, sex and Nazis.
It's all about the Nazis and like Goebbels.
because
and
because
stuff.
I do think like a large part of when you and I start to like become friends and everything, a large part of our discussion was about sexuality, right? I think naturally considering the nature of us both,
Yeah.
I think it was just an important part of
Yeah.
of whatever it is, you being sodomist and me
Having
just
sodomist tendencies.
yes, yeah. And me just loving the pussy.
Yeah.
And so it just becomes like it was a pinnacle part. But I do think that there's today in the Daily Wire, I can't remember which host it was. It could have been Shapiro, but anyways, they were talking about, it could have also been Walsh, but in general, this is the kind of ethos that many of them encompass. They're saying that if you partake in the discussion of transgenderism, right? So if you call Caitlyn Jenner her, or Bruce Jenner Caitlyn Jenner, or whatever, you're already like seeding the ground. You're already saying that that you're accepting the premises that this is possible at all. And I completely agree with that. But the problem is that in our first few episodes, what I was saying is that we have to go even further back. Is that when we agree that there is such thing as the homosexual, we're already losing ground. We're already saying that there is this reality, that this blobus character that we call the homosexual, and that people could kind of morph themselves into that reality. And so they talk with a lisp, they dress a certain way, they do whatever, they walk a certain way. Yeah. It's because it's all fictitious. It isn't new. And I think that's the part that always boggles my mind when I listen to the Daily Wire, is that they want to present these things as if it is just within the last 5 years, last 10 years. It's like, no, this has been going on for hundreds of years. And at least for about 150 years, we had a drastic change happen within the culture when we presented this entire character of the homosexual into the Western
It was
scene.
like 1867.
Yeah.
Was the first time it was mentioned.
Right. It's like that's when you really begin to see the downfall. And when every conservative and when every Christian, when everybody already admits and accepts the reality of the homosexual, they're already accepting false premises. It's like, no, the homosexual does not exist. There's simply actions that exist.
Yeah.
There's dick and ass.
Yeah.
Right. There's dick and pussy. There's these things, and these things we could properly categorize because those are actual realities in which we are articulating. When we say the homosexual, we articulate only tendencies or propensities or desires and so on and so forth, potentialities essentially. And so there's, when they want to get upset about the transgender issue, is like if you want to correct it, you have to go 150 years back or 160 years back, whatever, to the point that we began to fabricate identities
that
of
way.
any sort. Yeah,
Yeah.
with sexual identities, anyways. And if you really want to get past it, we can't talk about the homosexual anymore, because that's already losing ground. That's already saying that you accept the reality that there is an identity within a person that's innate to them, in which they must conform.
Yeah.
That's already the seed for transgenderism, because that's what transgenderism is saying, is that you have an identity in you that if you're born, a dude, but you deeply feel that you're a woman, that there's an identity that you must be conformed into. And so that's existed for a long ass time. And we've already skewed the entire conversation. We already skewed the entire principles by accepting that very principle, that very idea that the homosexual or the lesbian exists. It's like, no, there's dick and ass, there's dick and pussy, there's a good way to fuck, and there's perverted ways to do so. Yeah. And that is just part of the perverted ways, and we've called it sodomy for over 2,000 years. Yeah. Let's stick with that, because that's all it is, right? That's all it is. There is perverted acts, sodomizing others or sodomizing yourself in masturbation and everything else.
Actual sex, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's an actual act in which we are categorized as proper. Yeah. And, but anyways, and I thought that was interesting, because,
well, that's a summary of our first five recordings.
Yes, yeah.
4 of which are not on the feed, but
yes, yeah. But yeah, it was interesting. And I think there was a lot of people that actually enjoyed those discussions originally.
Definitely. Yeah, that was kind of our first bombshell thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously we had like no audience at that point. I remember getting messages and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not the several hundred people we have listening now, but
yeah,
for what, I mean, relative, it was a big deal for people, the few people that listened at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh, gays don't exist.
Yeah.
We made those up.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah, I don't know. For some, like 100 doesn't feel super weird to me.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, it doesn't. Not that it's not significant, but it just feels normal. It just is.
Yeah.
So should we get into what we're talking about? Today we will be covering. So for the 50th episode, we covered Martin Luther's "On the Jews and Their Lies," which is obviously just a hilarious text, and I would recommend anybody go back and listen to that. I think it was the New Modern Man, the Denali Mac episode, was when we first read excerpts from Luther's "On the Jews and Their Lies," and that was probably the longest fit of laughter I've recorded on the show thus far.
That one, like, there's 2 moments that stick in my head when you were shocked. That was one of them, when I told you, if I was like, no, he wrote a book called "The Jews and Their Lies," and you had that face of shock. Then the other one, we discussed it before, was when I told you that the Protestants removed 7 books. Yeah.
That was on air?
Yeah. And you're like, what? It was just like, those were probably the 2 most shocking moments in the podcast
for me, as far as like red pills go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the moment when I really realized that Catholics were right about everything. Like, oh, they removed all these books? And they didn't tell me that? No one thought to mention that detail?
Right. Yeah.
But so we covered "On the Jews and Their Lies" with our little swastika pie.
Oh, yes. That was good.
Yeah, on the 50th with Anne-Marie was there.
Yeah.
And today...
I miss Anne-Marie charcuterie boards.
I know, she just moved back.
I know.
And specifically just to do this.
I know.
But like, hey, we have...
Would she ever zoom in for a special episode?
I'm sure she would.
Okay, we should.
That'd be fun.
Try to get her zoom in.
But today we're going to cover, as the title of the stream suggests, Martin Luther's 95 Theses that he nailed to the door of the Mainz Cathedral. Yeah. Which I've actually visited.
Oh, have you?
I've actually been, because I went, I went to the Czech Republic on like mission work stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like half English teaching, half mission work stuff. And they're, the organizer's like, oh, we're going to Frankfurt. And Mainz is right outside of Frankfurt. And they're like, we're going to go to the cathedral where Luther tacked the theses. Yeah, I've been to Jan Hus's church, the Bohemian, the Czech reformer guy, who I think predated Luther just a little bit. I've been to all these like significant Protestant sites in Europe.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
and I think we probably mentioned it on the show before, but I think it's worth mentioning. Yeah. Because a lot of times when you read, when you go to school, they kind of teach us as if this was a very different thing people do, but this was just a very common practice. That when you post disputates on the door, that's what they call theses.
Yeah.
And then they will be discussed. And so, like in the university that I went to for grad school, in Leuven, KU Leuven, they actually discussed. The cardinals went to that university to discuss a lot of his theses, which is just interesting, right? Because when they did this, obviously they didn't have telephones or whatever, but through letters, it kind of boomed because there were ones that I think a lot of people were, when you think of the time, he wasn't. What he did was say it out loud.
Yeah.
There were concerns that people were having all over Western Europe about the church. And what he did, and I think the part that was significant about him is that he said it out loud. And then by saying it out loud, it became a very important.
Well, he actually did. He didn't really realize the degree to which what he was saying was
right. Yeah.
schismatic or heretical. He just did it.
Yes,
and he also did not intend that these be published widely. He didn't. That wasn't part of his.
It's hard to believe that considering what he wrote.
Yes, but once he started to realize the lines he was crossing, he leaned into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Is kind of the consensus on the history where he didn't really. Yeah. He posted them because he had plans to host like an academic
right. Because again,
debate
it was common practice,
but he did not realize the degree to which the Vatican or Rome at that point would take issue with it. He was immediately perceived as like a threat.
Yes, yeah.
And he didn't really know that was going to happen.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I don't think he knew what was going to happen, but I do think that there was already a sense of hubris within him.
Oh, of course. But that he'd say that any of it at all. Requires hubris, but I don't think he realized the backlash he was actually going to get from it.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then because he posted him in 1517?
Yeah.
And then by 1521, I think he was excommunicated.
Yeah.
And he had many audiences with the Archbishop and the Pope.
Yeah.
And they spent a very long time trying to get him to, I think, renounce 41 of these.
Yeah.
I could not find a list of which ones they wanted him to recant.
And this really shows how serious they took it. I mean, to take about 3 to 4 years to discuss these things.
Before excommunication.
Yes, that's kind
how
of
serious excommunication is. Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible what they did this, and they would gather these smaller councils. Obviously, there weren't large ecumenical councils, but they would have these small councils with academics and other thinkers in universities. Because we have to remember that, universities weren't what they are now. Universities were always, they all began with the Catholic Church. They were ran by the Catholic Church. They were ran by clergies. And they weren't just secular institutes. So when the universities got together to discuss, you're talking about very educated clergymen coming to discuss these topics that ultimately did lead to a council, which was the Council of Trent. But like all these smaller councils, when they were getting together, when they were meeting in Leuven, when they were meeting in Brussels, when they're meeting in Paris, it all accumulated ultimately to the Council of Trent. And so what Luther did was present theses that require discussion that ultimately led to an ecumenical council. So,
but it's just under half of these were considered heretical.
Yes.
But the other half was not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is considered at the time, it was not considered, I guess it took a few years for this to be kind of considered the beginning of the Protestant Reformation.
Yes, yeah.
Revolt, or whatever you want to say. It was his texts that followed this that were in response to the responses given to this that are considered first actual quote-unquote Reformation texts.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. This was not itself a text of the movement. It's just where it came from.
Yes, yeah.
Because this isn't nearly as intense as it got.
Yes.
That's kind of because I'd never read it before. I read it yesterday and today. Just kind of, it's pretty. There's 95. It's like 6.5 pages.
Yeah.
5.5, 6 pages. It's a quick read, as if you're just going to read it.
Yeah.
But every single thing is like a weighted statement.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we should just start in on it. So the first thesis of the night, and the way this is written, because I guess people might not know, or at least some people I've talked to don't know, is it's written in bullet points.
Yep.
Of claims.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like 95 thesis dissertations.
Right. Yeah. It's just a thesis statement.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
and so, like, if anybody has ever read Aquinas, this is how Aquinas writes, right? So you write your thesis statements and basically the objections, and then you do the reply on the contrary, and then the response. To each one of those.
It's almost like a mini written debate.
Yes, and so that's what these are. These are supposed to be the disputes, and so these are the disputed claims, and then they often.
So I guess we're just going to answer them in our layman's capacity.
And I have not read these.
Okay, so you're reading them cold.
Yes.
So the first one is very famous.
Yeah.
Is when our Lord and Master Jesus Christ said, "Repent," He willed the entire life of believers to be of one repentance, and that's. Again, I am not a scholar of this list of theses. I don't think that line is something the church had issue with.
Yeah.
How would you interpret that first?
I don't know. I don't get what he means.
By one repentance?
Yeah.
And then 2, this cannot be understood as referring to the sacrament of penance, which could we just say is reconciliation?
Yeah, or confession.
That is, confession and satisfaction is administered by clergy. So when he says that when we are commanded to repent, it's not confession. It's and yet it does not. The third thesis being, yet it does not mean solely inner repentance. Such inner repentance is worthless unless it produces various outward mortification of the flesh. So he starts out by saying Christ directs us to repent.
Yeah.
But that is not
the sacrament
of confession, but it is also not just inner repentance. Because inner repentance does not necessarily manifest outwardly.
Right, yeah.
Which I don't think many Protestants would like. Especially like
right, because most Protestants
more like people of like the Baptist persuasion would any internal confession of sin into the ether is it's self-sufficient, which I think does develop into the sola fide doctrine, which I think Luther developed
after
around the time of it. It was like 1510 to 1520 was when we first started dabbling with it.
So is he just simply trying to redefine the term repentance then?
I think so.
Or penance, yeah.
So the thesis 4 is the penalty of sin remains as long as the hatred of self, that is true inner repentance, namely till the penalty of sin remains as long as the hatred of self, that is true inner repentance, namely till our entrance into the kingdom of heaven. So it's that's essentially there is no payment. You do not fully repay. You don't suffer the full penalty of sin until you enter the kingdom of God. Like it just the payment for sin does not end until then.
So I'm guessing he's probably just trying to refute penance because after confession
you're considered sanctified.
No, they give you penance, and so like you say, do a decade of the rosary, or maybe I'm just a horrible sinner that I get a lot of penance. And so, I've been prescribed like the entire rosary at one time. Right?
Yeah,
and so they're like, you must do the whole rosary. So okay, I'm good with that.
It's the only time you do the rosary. That's when they tell you have to.
No, we do like family ones.
Oh,
and so with the kids and everything. But there's and so that's mean, so I'm assuming he's objecting to that. That's what it seems like.
That's
to
what
me.
it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like he's trying to object to that. There is no act that you can do that is penance that actually, I guess, fulfills the. He doesn't want to call it sacrament, so I don't know. Like fulfills the act of repentance.
Well, he says confession and satisfaction.
Yeah. Okay. So
confession as administered by clergy has to mean the sacrament of confession.
right.
And this is written for people. This is not written for laymen. This is written for academics.
Yeah. And so it seems, but again, he says it is not that though. It cannot be understood merely as a sacrament. So it's almost as if the act of repentance is transcendent beyond the sacraments. Mm-hmm. That's what from just reading this, that's what it seems like we're saying. Is that it's not merely fulfilled by the sacrament of confession, nor is it merely fulfilled by inner penance. But
something that transcends both.
Yes, but there's a transcendence to penance that the penalty to remit the penalties is not really done until after death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think that's correct or incorrect?
I think that's incorrect.
Why?
Because I guess in some respects, I think you are forgiven when you do the act of confession, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, even in a Catholic tradition, after death, you still suffer through purgatory to pay the debt of sin.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you are forgiven in this earth, and you fulfilled the penance here and now. But there is still purgatory that needs to be paid back. The debt of that sin still needs to be paid back, even if you are forgiven and I guess without sin after confession.
Yeah.
But the debt still remains. So like the way that in a Baltimore Catechism, I believe it gives this example, but I can't fully remember. So if any of my audience does, but at least my teachers and when I was in Holy Rosary were teaching me. So he could have just made it up on his own. Was that you can. Like if the example he gave was playing baseball. It's like a really old school example because obviously nobody plays baseball anymore. And so it's like you're playing baseball and you hit the ball and you break your neighbor's window. Mm-hmm. And now you could go to your neighbor's window and then to your neighbor and say you're sorry and he could forgive you, but it doesn't mean that therefore the window is repaired.
Yeah.
And so you still need to do something, even though you are forgiven fully by the person. He's not going to hold anything against you. There's still an
obligation to right the wrong.
Yes, to right the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's what he means, fine, but it doesn't seem like that's what he means. It seems like what he means is that the penance itself is not done through confession. And that's the part that I would say, that part is heretical. Yeah. You can say that the repairment or the finality of one's sin through purgatory is one that requires more, but not the penance itself. I mean, you've already been forgiven at that point.
Okay, so thesis 6.
Yeah.
We're just doing all of them.
Yeah.
We're going to be here all night. The Pope cannot remit any guilt except by declaring and showing that it has been remitted by God, or to be sure by remitting guilt in cases reserved to his judgment. If his right to grant remission in the cases were disregarded, the guilt would certainly remain unforgiven. What is that?
Let's keep going because I think that's the one that relates to it.
Yeah. 7, God remits guilt to no one unless at the same time he humbles him in all things and makes him submissive to the vicar or the priest.
The penitential
So it's almost like that God won't forgive anyone until they're submitted to a priest. God waits for someone to submit to a priest before he'll forgive him.
Unless this is the part that is supposed to be against indulgences.
The whole thing is against indulgences.
Okay.
It gets indulgence heavy.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
8, the penitential canons. What are the penitential canons? He references them a lot, and they're like a specific thing. And I think it was a
Let me look that up really quick.
Yeah, it was like a doctrine of how penance was to be administered.
Yeah.
For certain sins or something. It's like it refers to a specific thing. I had not heard of that before. But he references it several times. And I looked it up briefly.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, because there's a Wikipedia article about it. So it's like I feel like it's something I should know about. But again, we're
But yeah, penitential canons, rules laid down by councils or bishops concerning the penances to be done for various sins. These collected, adapted, and later practiced. Yeah, so I think that's what I was saying, that they normally give you a certain penance after you go to confession.
It's just the canon of...
Yeah, just the canon for those, yeah.
For the different... Okay.
Yeah.
The penitential canons are imposed only on the living and according to the canons themselves. Nothing should be imposed on the dying.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Was that a thing? Is if someone's dying, you don't make them pay for... Again, like it's referring to something specific that I don't know. So...
Which part are you reading? 8?
8. Yeah, the penitential canons are imposed only on the living and according to the canons themselves. Nothing should be imposed on the dying.
Oh.
So I wonder if there was some kind of thing.
Because in Catholicism you could pray for the dead.
Yeah.
So maybe he's denying that.
He does.
Okay.
Yeah. 9, therefore the Holy Spirit through the Pope is kind to us insofar as the Pope is...
You know, before we move on, do you know what's interesting about that part?
Yeah.
Is that Protestants think that maybe Catholics go too far there where you pray for the dead.
Yeah.
But many theologians of the Orthodox rite believes that you could actually pray for the damned and that the damned can still be saved.
Like if they go to hell?
Yeah, that hell is not eternal. So someone like David Bentley Hart is a very huge advocate of that. Yeah. But there's many Eastern
so they're actually
Orthodox.
They're actually
even more so than just
more liberal in their application of
that the damned is not eternal, that the damned is only temporary. But anyways, keep going.
So 9, was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. 9, therefore the Holy Spirit through the Pope is kind to us insofar as the Pope in his decrees always makes exceptions of the article of death and of necessity. Okay. And again, there's a few parts of this where I think he's referring to something specific of the time of which I'm not aware. Mm-hmm. 10, those priests act ignorantly and wickedly who in the case of the dying reserve canonical penalties for purgatory.
So he still believes in purgatory.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Is that how it sounds to you?
Yeah.
Okay. 11, those tears meaning fees, like
tariffs.
Yeah, those tears of changing the canonical penalty to the penalty of purgatory were evidently sown while the bishop slept. So
it gives a verse, Matthew 13.
Yeah.
25.
What does that mean?
Let's look up that verse.
Yeah, Matthew 13:25. Yeah. Can you do it? I got this thing up. Yeah. In the NRSV?
Yes.
Can you do the NIV?
No.
I can't even think of a funnier King James version. Dost thou?
Matthew 13:25.
Yeah. Yeah, those tears of changing the canonical penalty to the penalty of purgatory were evidently sown while the bishop slept. Canonical penalty to the penalty of purgatory. So apparently, he's railing against purgatory.
But while all the world was asleep, an enemy of his came and scattered tares among the wheat, and was gone.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, I have no idea.
So let me read 24. So this is where it begins. It says, and he put before them another parable. Here is an image, he said, of the kingdom of heaven. There was a man who sowed his field with clean seed. But while all the world was asleep, an enemy of his came and scattered tares among the wheat, and was gone. So when the blade had sprung up and came into ears, and tares too came to light. Mm-hmm. And the farmer's men went to him and said, Sir, was it not clean seed thou didst sow in thy field? How comes it then that there are tares in it? I think this is the what is that? No, this is definitely not King James. This is
Douay-Rheims?
yeah, I think it's a Douay-Rheims. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's a part of a parable.
Okay, so it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's not fees. It's some kind of a thing he's referring to that ruins crop or makes crop harder to harvest or something. But he's saying that at some point in church history, canonical penalty, which I guess would be, whatever thing
the penance that you do.
was
were imposed,
altered to be a penalty of purgatory, as if purgatory was invented or something.
Okay.
But in 12, in former times, canonical penalties were imposed not after but before absolution as tests to contrition.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, I guess at one point, before you confess, they told you what to do first.
Before you received absolution, but you still, that's the way it was still practiced though, because they could give you absolution, but it's always contingent.
Yeah.
It's like you're absolved of your sins.
So there's no difference
when you do these penance. And so if you go to confession, but you don't do your penance, you're actually not absolved.
Okay. So it's the same thing.
Yeah. But the one thing that is kind of interesting, I don't know if he gets into it. And so if he does, I apologize. But was in a very early church in the first, second, and I believe third century, people only went to confession once or twice in their lifetime. And that didn't really change until a little bit later. And so there was a more seriousness to it, like that you wouldn't just, like now you could go to confession every day. Like in the cathedral here, they have daily confession.
It used to be like one time.
What? Yeah, but before it was like you took it so serious that you didn't really repent until you were absolutely ready to completely abolish that sin from your life. But it was later then discussed that you need the graces from penance in order for you to actually abolish that sin, which is why penance became more readily acted. Because without the graces, there's nothing that you can do on your own self that could really actually get rid of the sin in your life.
Well, it's because as a fallen person, you're never ready.
Yeah, you're never ready, right? Yeah. And so that's why the practice changed, because it recognized more accurately that you need the sanctifying graces in order to become better. But I don't know if that's what he's kind of referring to, that there was this already an abolition of that sin before you went to repent. And that did exist in a very early church. That part I think he is accurate.
13, the dying are freed by death from all penalties. Are already dead as far as the canon laws are concerned and have a right to be released from them. 14, imperfect piety or love on the part of the dying person necessarily brings with it great fear, and the smaller the love, the greater the fear. This part, I was less certain why he was talking about it.
Yeah.
There's a couple parts in here I'm like, I don't really know how this flows with the rest of what he's saying.
So let's keep reading, because he talks about more about fear.
This fear of horror, 15, this fear of horror is sufficient in itself, to say nothing of other things, to constitute the penalty of purgatory, since it is very near to the horror of despair. Where does he do this? Yeah, hell, purgatory, and heaven seem to differ the same as despair, fear, and assurance of salvation. So I don't know if he's criticizing people's attitude towards these.
Because then he says, it seems as though the souls in purgatory fear should necessarily decrease and love increase. Furthermore, it does not seem proved either by reason or by scripture that souls in purgatory are outside the state of merit, that is, unable to grow in love.
And those are theses 17 and 18.
Yeah.
So what's your interpretation of that?
It doesn't seem to me that he's actually rejecting purgatory. It seems more like he's rejecting the value that was placed in purgatory. As if purgatory was viewed as, at that time, almost an excuse to not fully repent on earth.
Because then you could just do it in purgatory.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That And maybe that is an
And I don't,
attitude.
again, there is a
Yeah.
portion, there are a number of theses that he was demanded to recant,
Yeah.
but a little over half of it he wasn't. And I
Right.
don't know what parts of that he was and not. There's
Yeah.
some that are really obvious,
Yeah.
but some that like that, that criticism of like the attitude towards purgatory is that you don't have to repent now. You can just repent in purgatory. And like,
Yeah.
that probably was not,
You're right. Yeah.
that probably wasn't refuted by the church. I mean,
No,
that
yeah.
could be an accurate observation
Yeah.
of the attitudes of the time.
Even his claim that ultimately penance is completed in death. I mean, I don't think that that's actually contrary to church teaching.
No.
It's just whether it's where you really put the emphasis within those claims. So I think if you were to read it charitably, which I think the church normally does, you would read that basically that yes, if you were to interpret this correctly, it is true that you need something more in the end that need to repay the debt of sin. But anyways, let's keep going.
Can I ask a question from
Yeah.
the chat? JC, whoever that is, probably not Jesus Christ, asks, what is the most based English translation of the Bible? Would you say Dewey Reams?
Yeah.
Okay, Dewey Reams.
Yeah.
Which you'll not know how to spell until you Google. But okay, number 19. Nor does it seem proved that souls in purgatory, at least not all of them, are certain and assured of their own salvation, even if we ourselves may be entirely certain of it.
Can you read that again?
Nor does it seem proved that souls in purgatory, at least not all of them, are certain and assured of their own salvation, even if we ourselves may be entirely certain of it.
Okay, so that the souls in purgatory are more of in despair. Okay.
Yeah.
Therefore, the Pope.
20, therefore the Pope, when he uses the word plenary remission of the penalties, does not actually mean all penalties, but only those imposed by himself.
Okay. I don't see any issue with that.
What?
I don't see any issue with either of those two.
What does that mean? Why?
Because when you're in purgatory, you are suffering, and so in that state of suffering, you are at least existentially feeling more abandoned, not completely assured, like I said, assured of one's own salvation, but you are. But he says, even if ourselves may entirely be certain of it, so we can intellectually say that we are certain that those souls in purgatory are on the road to salvation because they're just paying back the debt of their sins, which terrifies me.
As it should.
Yes, yeah. But
Start crying about it.
but that that you are. Yeah, so I think that's a necessary quality of suffering. A necessary quality of suffering is that there is a certain degree of hopelessness.
Yeah.
That exists there. So yeah, I see no issue with that. So therefore, the Pope, when he reuses the words plenary remission of penalties,
plenary means enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does not actually mean all penalties, but just those imposed by himself. So by himself, I'm assuming the sinner, not the Pope. But I don't know. If he means by the sinner, yeah.
No, I was reading some interpretations of it. It's that he claimed that the Pope was only capable of deeming sins forgiven or deeming penance fulfilled, or what's the word? Fulfilled? I don't know. Penance paid.
Yeah.
He was only capable of deeming penance paid that he prescribed. Like, oh, your penance is paid. Your penance of 5 Hail Marys is paid because I told you to pray 5 Hail Marys.
Right. So it is determined by them.
Yeah.
So he's saying that it isn't determined by them.
No, he's saying that that's the only thing that the Pope is, or that clergy are able to commit. Or
he says the Pope specifically.
But he does. But he's using the Pope as like priests in general.
Yeah.
The church.
So thus those indulgences.
Yeah, 21. Thus those indulgence preachers are in error who say that man is absolved from every penalty and saved by papal indulgences. which do we need to do a little bit of a talk on what indulgences are in the history of them before we proceed? Because I know that you have strong opinions on indulgences. If we need to provide them now as we move into indulgence-heavy language.
Yeah, and so, I mean, indulgences was, it was a sacrificial giving of one's wealth, because that is something that most of us, I would say, is the hardest just to give. You know what I mean? It's like when you work hard for that, is like you simply to sacrifice that. We get pissed about, right? That's what literally every discussion with every anarchist and whatever is about that they don't want to. Oh, beautiful! They don't want to release their money to what they view as theft by the government, whatever. And so there is a deep connection between one's earnings to sacrifice for that. And so with your with indulgences, you would sacrifice your money, you would give your money to the church.
And there is a thing apparently at the time, and it's mentioned in here, is they were building St. Peter's Basilica.
Yes, yeah.
And he mentions he later in this, and we can discuss it more in depth later. He accuses the Pope of using church money to build that for his own sake.
Well, the Vatican already existed there well before it, but they were building it out.
Yes, but he was accusing the Pope of appropriating church money to build St. Peter's Basilica.
Yes, yeah.
Which we'll get to, but he was accusing the church of using the church's money to build stuff. But anyway, indulgences were... Because I was taught about indulgences in a very specific way.
Okay,
Do you want me to wait for this for you?
No, you could drink it.
Okay. You're not going to have any?
I will.
Later? Okay. I love how there's the whiskey top bottle on these.
Oh, I know.
But what was it? You could pay a certain amount of money to the church to ensure the salvation of your dead loved ones in purgatory, or to...
It could be loved ones, but it could be for the self as well.
So what's the point of that? I've not...
Because then they pray for you.
The church prays for you.
Yeah.
So you have to pay the church to pray for you?
You don't have to pay them, but it is part of the giving.
But they won't pray for you unless they give the money?
I guess if you word it that way, yes.
Like individually.
There has to be something given on your end.
Just explain that to me. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just would be interested in hearing.
It's that it goes back to the parable of, and this is where most of it goes back to, the parable that Jesus gives about the wealthy man. Yeah. And then, he kept telling him to do things and he would do it. And then in the end, he would say, give up all your riches and come follow me. And then the man puts his head down and he's unable to follow him. It goes back to that, is that you can't, you giving up your wealth is an outward presentation of you recognizing the gravity of your sin. Like there is a real connection between that. There's a real connection between you saying that and I think that's why the parable is so important. Is that, the hardest thing for anybody to really do is to take that and to say, I'm going to give it all to you and I'm just going to follow you. Like the one who practices indulgence the best would be the one really who gives up his entire wealth. There's the one who simply says, whatever, all my property, I give to the church, I give to you. Just please pray for me. And that's what the act of indulgence was, and it still is valid, because that is a valid thing to do.
I mean, you've told me many times. I don't know about it on the show or not, but there was never a banning of indulgences.
Yes, yeah.
They just stopped after Trent.
Yes,
because it's considered socially taboo to do that.
Yes, yeah.
But they still can.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I don't understand. I feel like Yes, I say I feel like I feel like I know,
Yeah.
but can't articulate properly. That it's odd to me that both scripture and church tradition
Yeah.
and dogma can instruct me to tithe money and a certain percent of it to the church, but then and that's, no one has issue with that,
Yeah.
tithing. But then if they give me an alternate route down which to send my money into the church, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Because the idea that you're literally buying your own salvation is incorrect.
Right. It is.
That's
that,
wrong.
Yeah.
That's not the theological argument in favor of
Right.
indulgences.
Yes. Yeah. Indulgences really is scriptural, and a lot of it is based on that parable.
The tithing thing?
Yeah. Not that, the tithing thing, but it was about that wealthy man unwilling to give up his entire wealth.
Oh, the Lazarus one?
Was it Lazarus? Yeah. I
The
can't
one
remember.
with the
And he, in the end, he didn't do it, and he walked away with his head down.
Oh, that's a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different one.
Because because the thing about wealth, let me look that one up actually, because I think that this part is important, right?
Yeah. Wow, this port is so good.
Wow, I love that one actually.
The Kirkland one?
Yeah.
It tastes like raisins. Is port room temperature stable? Like whiskey?
Oh, I think so.
Or do you have to store it in the fridge like regular wine? I could look it up. I don't know if you just don't know if you know. So I wonder if this is, because this is a very heavy thing to have to consume.
It's known as the parable of the rich fool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of I know it generally.
Yeah. A man who refuses to share his inheritance with his brother. Yeah, taught him. So I think that might be the Lazarus one. I think you're right.
No, Lazarus was the rich guy with the home, the like bum dies outside his door, and then he's sent to heaven with Abraham, and then the rich guy goes to hell, and he's like, but why didn't I go to heaven?
Hold on. You keep talking while I look this
I don't have anything else to say. I was trying to comment on the port and stuff. I love the shape of port bottles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I went into this cold and so I didn't do anything.
I know. Yeah, you were like, I'll read it beforehand. I was like, we got to an hour before recording. He's like, I didn't have a chance to read it. But we're like a fourth through it. It's not we're not going to be here forever. Do you remember the point you were making about the parable?
Yeah, and so basically that the
okay, good.
Okay, so basically the one who is unable to give up his wealth to follow Christ. That basically was it, and that normally when you begin to think of this, when you think of the indulgences, I do think that there are people that automatically get kind of squirmy with it, right? It makes them uncomfortable. It's like, well, what do you mean? For them, there's people are so cynical that's the first thing that comes to their head is what Luther is saying. It's like, why? Because you want to build yourself an entire large cathedral, or you want the best food to eat or whatever. And I guess what my point is that even if that is the case, who gives a shit? It's like that's not the point of indulgence. Even if the Pope or the bishop or the cardinals are abusing their power, and that they're using that to fatten themselves up, or to get a nicer place to live, or to have a nicer cathedral, I really don't give a shit. The point was that if you go to any like Western person right now that's alive, and you were to go to them with that same request, give up all of your wealth and follow Christ, most people will be like, no. Right? It's like, no, of course not.
They didn't attack you.
Yes. Yeah. Like they will get pissed almost. It's like, why? And that's the point that you need to focus on. You need to focus on the person that's actually giving, the person that's actually sacrificing, because he's the one that's reaping the rewards of eternal salvation, not the priest or the bishop or the pope who is getting rich off of indulgences. It is the individual who simply sacrifices it, because at the end of the day, does it really matter? Does it matter what they use their money for? There was this one weirdo in Pennsylvania. You could look him up. I think nobody knows his real name.
Who are you talking about?
Okay, so he changed his name to what's his name? And then he literally gave up all his possessions. Like, he's a Catholic guy from Pennsylvania, as most Pennsylvanians are. And he gave up everything. He just wandered around Pennsylvania, just wandered around everywhere just to talk to people. He would go to mass, he would go to everything and just talk to people. He literally gave up everything. He didn't have any shoes. He just walked around.
Did you see this guy or something?
Well, no, but I did see him in the news.
Local legend.
Yeah, he's local. Yeah, but I did see him in the news one time. And his name was simply, what's his name? And he just gave up all his possessions.
And his name.
Now, who took his possessions? Does it matter what they did with him? I mean, not really.
This is literally the root of, like my taxpayer money.
It is. Yes, I know. When you read
it's
this,
the cultural root of a lot of.
Yeah. And I think it's a weird attitude to have. It's like, I really don't care when I tithe or when I give something up. I don't care what the other person is doing with it, because it's no longer mine. I already gave it up.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's yours. If you're going to sin and you're going to suffer your own soul with it, that's your issue at that point. Now, I should pray for you, but I've already given it up. I've already done that. And so I do think that parable, that message of Christ is very, very important, is basically taking what is the most important to you and losing that, losing that to whatever, and to simply to follow him. That's
and this was it's just another way to do that.
It is. And it's a hard fucking thing to do. That's not an easy thing. That's not an easy thing. Oh, yeah, I could do that very easy. It's like, no. Most of us struggle with it.
I couldn't do that.
Yes. And it's a very, very, very difficult thing to do. And the fact that the church no longer practices this, I think is detrimental. Yeah. Because everybody now feels entitled. Most people that call themselves Catholic feel entitled. It's like, I want to know what you're using my money. If I'm tithing, I don't want him just to be eating steak and fucking prostitutes. I want to make sure that the priest and the bishop are using it right. It's like, well, you kind of have lost the point at that instance, because now it's no longer a sacrifice. Now it's some weird investment.
Yeah.
It's like you're investing into the church to use your money the way you want them to use it. That's not a sacrifice. That's not a sacrifice. You're not tithing. You're not giving anything up at that point. Like, really think about just giving it up. What does it mean for one to give something up? It means that it is no longer yours. You're saying that whatever this is, I relinquish all of it. And I think that this is the one thing I loved about Shia LaBeouf's interview.
It was a let go thing.
It was this let go thing. It's very powerful. And I think this is very central to the Catholic message that someone obviously like Luther is not understanding. It's like, you can criticize the Pope however you want, but if the individual has given that to them, just let it be, because he has done his duty. He has done his sacrifice. And now the bishops and the popes ought to behave correctly. That's true. But it is not an investment.
Yeah.
When you tithe, you shouldn't be concerned with what the priest or the bishops are using your money for. And the fact that we all feel entitled for that, like it's gotten so ridiculous. I'm sure some of our listeners who are Catholic knows this. There are points that now they kind of have to like make it open what it's being used for. It's like, and now
who's calling your phone this much?
Someone's calling my phone.
Do you hear that?
Oh, I do.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
it's fine. Whatever. It's almost creepy, like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Weird. No one's out there?
No.
Everything good?
Yeah.
Okay. I just noticed it. It's been going off for like 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, who's dying? I figured you were ignoring a call on your cell phone or something. They were trying to get your attention, but whatever. Do we continue?
Yeah.
Well, that was so 22. And again, we'll probably speed run some of this.
Yeah.
But 22, as a matter of fact, the Pope remits to souls in purgatory no penalty which, according to canon law, they should have paid in this life. Now it's off the hook. Do you hear that? It's like,
Stop, really?
Do you hear that?
No.
It was doing the voicemail thing.
Oh.
And it's weird. But anyway,
Yeah.
As a matter of, God is mad at us for even talking about it. But 22, as a matter of fact, the Pope remits to souls in purgatory no penalty which, according to canon law, they should have paid in life.
Yeah.
The Pope remits to souls in purgatory no penalty which they should have paid in this life. That once you're in purgatory, you're not paying for sins anymore. That the Pope can't tell you what sins you're paying for anymore.
Okay, yeah.
23, if remission of all penalties whatsoever could be granted to anyone at all, certainly it would be granted only to the most perfect, that is, to very few.
Yeah.
Obviously. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So 4, for this reason, most people are necessarily deceived by that indiscriminate and high-sounding premise of release from penalty. Most people are necessarily deceived by that indiscriminate and high-sounding promise of release from penalty. This is the classic Luther superiority complex sound. In most of his writing, he really, really, really thought he was very, very smart.
Yeah.
25, the power which the Pope has in general over purgatory corresponds to power which any bishop or curate has in a particular way in his own diocese and parish. So he's saying that Pope's attitude towards purgatory is that of a bishop over his parish.
Yeah.
Is that how that's to be interpreted?
I guess, yeah.
Which is anti-Pope. It's criticizing the attitude of the Pope.
Yeah.
The Pope, 26, the Pope does very well when he grants remission to souls in purgatory, not by the power of the keys, which he does not have, but by way of intercession for them. Thoughts? No?
No.
27 I highlighted for some reason. They preach only human doctrines who say that as soon as the money clinks into the chest, the soul flies out of purgatory.
Yeah.
Which is their record of that being the attitude? That once you pay indulgences, fling, they're done. Because I wonder if there was a popular attitude of that.
I mean, attitude-wise, I guess, yeah. From
but doctrinally, that doesn't mean it's wrong.
Right. From what I've read, but again, a lot of what we read in history books were influenced by Luther's perception of things. And so I don't know how accurate one can say that everybody's attitude, or even the majority or many attitudes, were actually that way. I really don't know.
All you can do is assess it doctrinally.
Yes, yeah.
Which
is not the case.
Yeah. 28, it is certain that when money clinks in the money chest, greed and avarice can be increased, but when the church intercedes, the results in the hand of God alone.
Okay.
He's being so catty.
Yes. Money clinks in a chest.
29, who knows whether all souls in purgatory wish to be redeemed, since we have exception in Saint Severinus and Saint Paschal as related in legend. I don't know anything about that. Do you know anything about that?
No.
I love how we're just like, we feel totally qualified to discuss this, even though we have no reference for many of. Anyway, 30. I highlighted the first phrase, which is, "No one is sure of the integrity of his own contrition, much less of having received plenary remission." I think that's absolutely true. You cannot be sure in this life that you are contrite enough.
Yeah.
that you are repentant enough. That seems obvious to me. Do you think people can be sure they're repentant enough?
I would ask, why wouldn't that be the case, actually?
If you can't know you're saved.
He's not talking about that, just whether you're contrite enough.
How can you know that?
Or it's not sure of the integrity of his own condition. I don't even think it's whether it's enough, but just whether there's integrity in one's contrition. I would say you can know when you're actually being...
Oh, so it might... Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're being sincere in your contrition. If I was going to read integrity in that sense. I think that's something that we actually do know, is that we know when we are bullshitting and when we're not.
Okay, true.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If contrition is an act of the will,
Yeah.
you can know when your will is oriented correctly.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a better way of putting it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know how I would have phrased that before now. But it didn't seem wrong, but now it does. I'm entering tipsy zone. Thesis 31, the man who actually buys indulgences is as rare as he who is really penitent. Indeed, he is exceedingly rare.
Okay.
The man who actually buys indulgences is as rare as he who is really penitent.
Yeah, because there weren't many people that actually did it. I mean, that's true.
Okay, so this one...
I mean, most people cannot afford to do that, but yeah, most people just didn't. I think even until now, I think it just would be... I don't think it'll be that majority of people actually practicing it, even if it was accepted right now.
Okay. 32, those who believe that they can be certain of their salvation because they have indulgence letters will be eternally damned together with their teachers.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, he's being Lutheranly severe in his language, but yeah, you can't be certain of your salvation.
Right,
yeah, okay, yeah, not wrong.
Yeah.
33, men must especially be on guard, which to me sounds like the same language as on the Jews in their lives. Men must be on guard against the Jews or something. Yeah, men must especially be on guard against those who say that the Pope's pardons are that inestimable gift of God by which man is reconciled but to him. Obviously.
Okay.
4, for the graces of indulgences are concerned only with the penalties of sacramental satisfaction established by man. Which to me seems like a little hotter of a take.
Yeah.
Graces of indulgences are only concerned only with the penalties of sacramental satisfaction established by man. So indulgences can only satisfy penance as established and determined and commanded by the church as it exists in the world. It has nothing. It doesn't. Would you say he's saying it has no reflection on the actual?
Yeah, it seems like it.
Sacramental value of it or not?
Yeah.
It's just okay. 35. They who teach that contrition is not necessary on the part of those who intend to buy souls out of purgatory or to buy confessional privileges preach unchristian doctrine. Let me read it. They who teach that contrition is not necessary on the part of those who intend to buy souls out of purgatory. So, okay, those who say that you yourself don't have to be repentant of anything if you're buying someone else's salvation. You don't have to forgive anything, but like hope that they do.
Yeah.
It's probably true.
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. So do you have any thoughts on that? It's when it starts to get wild around 30.
Yeah. He starts getting more of a catty bitch. But yeah.
So what's your thought on that?
I don't know yet. Let's keep reading. I mean, a lot of it just seems like he's really angry about indulgences.
36.
Yeah.
Any truly repentant Christian has a right to full remission of penalty and guilt, even without indulgence letters.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was never an obligation.
This is the kind of thing
yeah.
where this is the exact same tone as when, some kind of non-denominational Christian is mad at Catholics and they're like,
Yeah.
well, I don't have to confess my sins to be saved. And we're like, we didn't say you did.
Right. Yeah.
No one said that you had to do that. No one said you had to pray to Mary. No one said any of this.
Yes. Yeah.
No one has ever said that. That's kind of what this is feeling like to me at this point.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't have to have indulgences to be saved.
It's like, yeah.
Yes. Okay. 37. Any true Christian, whether living or dead, participates in all the blessings of Christ in the church, and this is granted to him by God, even without indulgence letters.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Yes. True. 38. Nevertheless, papal remission and blessing are by no means to be disregarded, or they are, as I have said, thesis 6, the proclamation of the divine remission. What is 6 again? 6 was the Pope cannot remit any guilt except declaring but showing it has been remitted by God.
Okay.
You know, to be by remitting guilt in cases reserved for his judgment. So he can only forgive
Yeah.
that which he can only determine any penance fulfilled that he determined to be paid or something. 39 is difficult even for the most learned theologians at one and the same time to commend to the people the bounty of indulgences and the need for true contrition. So he's saying that it is very difficult to extol the practicality and virtue of indulgences and also that people need to actually be repentant, which seems untrue.
Yeah.
So this is the part when we're getting into this part where you can tell the church was like, hey, dude, take this part back. 40, I highlighted the whole thing. A Christian who is truly contrite seeks and loves to pay penalties for his sins. The bounty of indulgences, however, relaxes penalties and causes man to hate them. At least it furnishes occasions for hating them. Occasion for hating them. That one seems like a much bigger claim than...
So he's saying that the practice of indulgences, I guess, just gives people anger?
Opportunity. It makes people
Or at least
more
the occasion.
angry at penance they would otherwise have to pay.
Yeah.
Or fulfill or whatever.
Okay. I mean, yeah. that's what I was saying all along. Yeah, people get pissed at that.
Yeah.
Once it deals with their money, yeah, it gets pissed. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's saying that if you can just pay them, you're more mad if you have to do anything but pay them.
Oh.
Is how I'm interpreting that.
Oh, I thought that he's saying that.
They're saying a Christian who is truly contrite seeks and loves to pay penalties for his sins.
Yeah.
We love it.
But it says the bounty of indulgences, however, relaxes penalties and causes men to hate
the penalties.
them. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Because you're agreeing with my interpretation of that.
Yeah.
If we're Christians, we love paying penance.
Yeah.
Love it. Love being punished. Love suffering. Love admitting we suck and we're wrong. Love it. Which again, this is the roots of the Protestant ethos are here.
It is, yeah,
obviously.
Definitely.
Thesis 41, papal indulgences must be preached with caution, lest people erroneously think that they are preferable to other good works of love. Okay. Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
Now look at the next 9, and do you see what they're saying every phrase? Christians are to be taught. Christians are to be taught. Christians are to be taught. Christians are to be taught.
Wow.
This would justify his writing his own catechism.
Yeah.
But 42 says Christians are to be taught that the Pope does not intend that the buying of indulgences should in any way be compared with works of mercy.
Okay.
Which is true.
Mm-hmm.
Who was saying that? Who was saying that buying indulgences was a work of mercy?
Yeah.
43, Christians are to be taught that he who gives to the poor or lends to the needy does a better deed than he who buys indulgences.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, 44. Okay. Because love grows by works of love, man thereby becomes better. Man does not, however, become better by means of indulgences, but is merely freed from penalties.
Okay.
True.
Yeah.
45. Christians are to be taught that he who sees a needy man and passes him by, yet gives his money for indulgences, does not buy papal indulgences, but God's wrath. Mm. Do you think that's true? If you because you're still sacrificing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see.
Well, the only reason that would be true is if you hate the church.
Yes.
If you think that what the church does with money is wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you don't, if you trust that the church tends towards the good and is filled with the Holy Spirit that guides it towards truth, then giving your money to the church would be categorically the same as giving your money to a random guy.
Yes,
but in giving the money to the random guy, you can determine that what's being done with your money is what you want to be done with it to a higher degree of certainty.
Almost, but I think nowadays the hobo is just going to buy liquor.
No, I know. Yes, but
so it's like, if you were to fast forward to nowadays, it would be hard, I think, for him to make that statement. When you see a homeless person, most of the times they're addicts of something.
Yes.
Whether it's drugs.
Yeah, and again, that's a...
Yes,
But I think the point he's making is that why would you if you give the money to the church and not some dude that you can see suffering...
Yeah.
If you are not your own church and dispensing your own money...
Exactly, right, yeah.
But instead give it to the actual church that is filled with the Holy Spirit and its judgment for how it dispenses money or whatever, then that's, That's okay. Again, 46, Christians are to be taught that unless they have more than they need, they must reserve enough for their family needs and by no means squander it on indulgences.
Yes.
Is that true? No.
I don't know. To me, that's just a question of prudence. I mean, like where one ought to place their money. Yeah, you wouldn't
spend all of the money your family needs to buy food on indulgences, but I don't know.
Some people did.
And it was fine. It worked out.
Yeah, in the end.
It is definitely like a who am I to say kind of thing.
Yeah, it seems kind of weird to put on here, but okay.
I'm just checking my stuff here real quick. What is it? 47. And notice that every single one of these begins with Christians are to be taught that.
Yeah.
That's why I underlined all of them and put it under. I noticed a pattern. 47, Christians are to be taught that the buying of indulgences is a matter of free choice, not commanded. I will note that I got this from Luther.org or something. It's like the official Lutheran website, and they have typos in Luther's 95 Theses on Luther.com or whatever website it is. Does that reflect well? No, but Christians are to be taught that the buying of indulgences is a matter of free choice, not commanded. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I wonder if there was an attitude of people,
Maybe.
at least he's in Germany though.
Yeah.
Germany's not known for doctrinal
even
consistency. Yes. They should, as they prepare for schism in Germany.
I know.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be funny if even the German Catholics were schismatic?
Yeah, I know.
Or whatever, or heretical? The Germans are just bad Catholics.
They're just fucked. They can't do it right.
Generation, they're like, you know what? We don't even want your Catholics.
Yeah.
You're done. Have your own pope. It's fine. 48, Christians are to be taught that the Pope, in granting indulgences, needs and thus desires their devout prayer more than their money. What? Okay, so Christians are to be taught that in granting indulgences, needs the Pope in granting indulgences needs and thus desires their devout prayer more than their money.
So you're saying that the Pope who accepts indulgences is such deep in sin that he desires the prayers more than the money, I guess.
Or the money more than their prayers? No, so he's saying this, he's correcting something. Christians would be taught that the Pope and granting indulgences needs and thus desires.
Yeah.
So he's saying you should tell people to pray devoutly more than give you their money.
Yeah.
49, Christians are to be taught that papal indulgences are useful only if they do not put their trust in them, but very harmful if they lose their faith of God because of them. What? That are useful only if they do not put their trust in them, but are harmful if they lose their fear of God because of them? So you can't think anything about them? Is that what it's saying?
I guess.
That papal indulgences are useful only if they do not put their trust. They're only useful if you think you're doing nothing of use at all. But they're harmful if you don't believe in God anymore because of them.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think that's what you're saying.
They're not useful if you think anything of it at all. But also they're worse if you think God doesn't exist because you paid indulgences.
Just for a little break.
Yes.
One thing so far
Yeah.
is, after reading scholastic thinkers,
Yes.
that the fact that the church was charitable enough to take this serious,
For 3-4 years.
yeah, for me, actually respects the church more, because it's like holy shit, it's badly written.
Well, it's not in the original German, but we have to assume,
Yeah, even
it's close
then,
enough to German that
it's just not.
I bet it was written in Latin.
Probably, yeah. But even if written in Latin, there's not if you read the Summa Theologica, if you read, Summa Cultura Gentiles, there's a depth of wealth of knowledge and academic rigor in it that is just it's profound and amazing. You could read Boethius, you could read Peter Abelard, you could read many of these scholastic thinkers. Well, I guess Boethius was a Neoplatonist, but you could read scholastic thinkers, and you could read Duns Scotus, you could read there's many of them. I would even see, let's say, like William of Ockham, and all of them at least were academically sound and worth discussing. A lot of this is just not even worth discussing.
So here, let's
bad.
so just okay to make fun of this thesis more.
Yeah.
49. How can we make papal indulgences are useful only if they do not put their trust in them as stupid sounding as possible? Is that when I say papal indulgences are only useful if they don't mean anything to you at all?
Yes, yeah.
What does that mean? They're only useful if you not put your, is he semantically loading trust?
No, I think he's just saying that if you don't take it serious.
It's only useful if you don't take it seriously?
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
Because I think then you're not actually putting your faith in your sacrifice.
Well, then, yeah, your sacrifice doesn't matter if you don't care about it.
Yeah, that's the thing what he's saying. He's saying that indulgences are so stupid
that if you think they're doing anything of use at all,
yes,
it's wrong.
The only way that he could see a justification for indulgences is if you're not taking it serious. He said it is that stupid that it is only worthwhile if you're not taking it serious.
Amazing. Anyway, thesis 50 is Christians are to be taught that if the Pope knew do you like how they put the Pope in the lowercase?
I know, yeah.
Luther.Denmark.
Yeah.
DE Deutschland.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Luther.org, whatever website. If you type in Martin Luther 95 Theses, it's the first website that comes up. And I wanted to get this from the official Lutheran thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, 50. Christians are to be taught that if the Pope knew the exactions of the indulgence preachers, which means to say that if the Pope knew exactly what indulgence preachers were doing, he would rather that the Basilica of St. Peter were burned to ashes than built with the skin, flesh, and bones of his sheep. The fact that the tradition is that he didn't know this would make anyone mad.
Yeah.
I didn't know this would make the Vatican angry. I didn't know. 51. Christians are to be taught that the Pope would and should wish to give of his own money, even though he had to sell the Basilica of St. Peter to many of those from whom certain hawkers of indulgences cajole money. So Christians are to be taught the Pope would and should wish to give his own money. He doesn't have money. He's the Pope.
But he's saying that
Yes.
the money that they're getting from
Yes.
indulgence
So he's saying that all of the money of the church is the Pope's money.
Yes, yeah.
The Pope is just spending his money on a big basilica. And I saw this poor guy. I saw this hungry poor guy on the side of the road, but he's building St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican.
This sounds like a fucking libertarian at this point.
I know he does.
What are you doing with my money?
It's like I saw this guy who was sitting down and looked hungry, but they're building this church in Italy. 800 miles away, but they are ignoring this poor guy that I saw. But yeah, he treats the church's money as just the Pope's money.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. 52, we no longer have to say Christians are to be taught anymore. It is vain to trust in salvation by indulgence letters, even though the indulgence commissary or even the Pope were to offer his soul as security. So it's essentially, it is vain to trust in salvation by indulgence letters, even if the Pope puts his own salvation on the line for that to be the case.
Yeah.
Which seems antithetical to the
Yeah.
truth.
They are enemies of Christ.
Yeah. 53, they're enemies of Christ and the Pope who forbid altogether the preaching of the word of God in some churches in order that indulgences may be preached in others. So he's accusing the church of promoting the purchase of indulgences to such a degree that they're no longer discussing scripture in Mass. Which, based on what I know of Luther, is likely hyperbolic.
Yes.
54, injury is done to the word of God when in the same sermon an equal or larger amount of time is devoted to indulgences than to the word. Which is interesting because when I sit in Mass, most of it is not spent reading the Bible.
Right, yeah.
So what about the rest of it? Anyway. Is that a valid point?
Yeah.
It's like they don't talk about the Bible enough in church. It's like they don't spend the majority of it reading the Bible.
Yes. That's one small part of it.
Yes. An important part.
Of course, yeah.
The most important part, maybe.
No, the consecration.
Yes. Is that not, what is, the prayers are not literally read from the Bible?
I mean, I think they're found in the Bible, but they're not like the actual scriptural readings. And so you have the two readings in the gospel. Yeah.
Because I knew that part now.
Yeah.
I actually know how Mass works now.
Yeah, like the sacrament is the is the
and they don't read the Bible. Yeah. 54, 55.
Yeah.
Number 55 is certainly the Pope's sentiment that if indulgences, which are a very insignificant thing, are celebrated with one bell, one procession, and one ceremony, then the gospel, which is the very greatest thing, should be preached with 100 bells, 100 processions, 100 ceremonies. This is a useless thesis. Yes. And is purely opinion.
Yeah.
Indulgences, which are stupid and dumb and stupid. Like, that's not even an argument. It's just... Am I wrong?
No,
Like that
no,
one was that one was weird to me because I'm reading in this. It's it's all like kind of catty, bitchy, faggy.
That's what I was saying. It's like the fact that they took this serious is
No, I know, but a lot of that. But at
impressive.
least he's saying stuff, and then he goes, "Well, indulgences don't matter at all. So if they're going to talk about the gospel, they should do it more."
Yeah.
That one to me was out of place. It was even out of place, even in this.
Yeah.
56. The true treasures of the church, out of which the Pope distributes indulgences, are not sufficiently discussed or known among the people of Christ. I don't know that. I don't know any. I don't have anything to say about that.
Yeah, me either.
True treasures of the church. I don't know what that. I don't know what he means. I mean, which the Pope distributes indulgences are not sufficiently. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a reflection on the times. I can't know that, and I don't know how much I can trust most historical.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Content describing that time period because most of it's not Catholic. It's anti-Catholic. But 57, the indulgences are not temporal treasures, or that indulgences are not temporal treasures is certainly clear. For many indulgent sellers do not distribute them freely, but only gather them. I don't know what he's talking about. He's talking about as in like they're just taking people's money and not...
You're not giving them the indulgence letter, I'm assuming.
They're not temporal treasures. I don't know. 58, nor are they merits of Christ and the saints, for even without the Pope, the latter always work grace for the inner man, and the cross, death, and hell for the outer man. That one was more confusing to me. I put a question mark next to it. I'm like, I don't know what that. Indulgences are not merits of Christ and the saints, for even without the Pope, the latter always work grace for the inner man, and the cross, death, and hell.
Mm-hmm.
So is he saying that indulgences are not merits of Christ and the saints because they only work in favor of the self?
I've never heard this phrase inner man and outer man. I'm assuming that
This sounds really Nietzschean.
I know it does. I'm assuming it means the soul and the body.
Yeah.
The soul being the inner man and the body being the outer.
Okay, so 59, St. Lawrence said that the poor of the church were the treasure of the church, but he spoke according to the usage of the word of his own in his own time.
Okay.
I don't know. So he's saying, I don't like the use of that word, so I'm going to redefine it. Without want of consideration, we say the keys of the church given... Okay, without want of consideration, we say that the keys of the church given by the merits of Christ are that treasure.
Okay.
Is he doing the thing where he's like, I don't like the way he used that word, so I'm redefining it?
Right, yeah.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Okay. 61, for it is clear that the Pope's power is of itself sufficient for the remission of penalties in cases reserved by himself. So this is again the same. The Pope can only can only deem sins forgiven, and I purposefully don't say forgive sins. I say deem sins forgiven.
Yeah.
If he's the one, or that penance, he can only deem penance paid if he prescribed the penance or something.
Yeah.
The same kind of thing. 60, the true treasure of the church is the most holy gospel of the glory and grace of God, or of gospel of the glory and grace of God, which is again this scripture alone thing is gonna develop out of that thesis. Did he do that thing where he said St. Lawrence said to St. Lawrence is someone who would have been quotable for the entire history of the church because he's a saint.
Yeah.
St. Lawrence said the poor of the church are the treasure of the church, but he spoke according to his usage of the word in his own time. He literally just said, this is how this guy defined that word, but I don't want to say that.
Yeah, he's saying that it was contingent on his time.
Which is a relative.
Yes.
So he's doing the libertarian thing that they always do.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I read that and it's like, oh. Yeah. So the 62 to reiterate is the true treasure of the church is the gospel. 60, which doesn't mean the Bible, but apparently people interpreted to mean the Bible for hundreds of years after this.
Yeah.
63, but this treasure is naturally most odious, for it makes the first to be last.
Okay.
Which is a
biblical reference.
Yes, but he's saying that people hate the gospel because it makes the first last. Yeah. Which I don't think is true.
Right.
I want to be first because I am first. But 64, on the other hand, the treasure of indulgences is naturally most acceptable, for it makes the last to be first. So he's setting up people hate the gospel and love indulgences because it makes them feel good.
I don't think it's them, but I think he's actually referring to the Pope more specifically.
Okay, so what's your interpretation of this?
Is that he's saying like a true Christian would accept that the first will be last.
Yeah.
But that the Pope getting wealthy out of indulgences is actually not being a true Christian, because he's doing the reverse, where he's saying that the last should be first. That him gaining that wealth is
making an inversion.
Yes, he said that the Pope is making an inversion of what the actual Christian teaching is.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what he wanted to. That's why he wanted to redefine the entire idea of the treasure of the church. He wanted to say
which I was correct in.
Yes, yeah.
Assuming that he was introducing that he was completely redefining the word.
Yes, yeah. Okay. He wants to say the treasure of the church is the gospel,
which is not what it was.
And the gospel says that the first shall be last, but the Pope is acting as if the last should be first. That's what he's saying.
I would love to read or be acquainted with other writing of the time discussing the treasure of the church, quote unquote.
Right, yeah.
And see how far off he was.
Yeah.
Because this makes it seem like he just was like, I don't like that definition. I want to call it this.
Yes, yeah.
And then based several of his theses off of that. Which would be in Lutheran style.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. 65. Therefore,
the treasure.
Yeah, I was reading a comment. 65. Therefore, the treasures of the gospel are nets with which one formerly fished for men of wealth. Mr. Patriarch is typing. We have to record with him sometime.
Yes.
Not that I don't want to say we have to. So I'm saying we should, to the degree that it's necessary. We should have him on sometime in the next few weeks.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll text him. I have his number. 66. The treasures of indulgences are nets with which one fishes for the wealth of men. Which he's saying essentially indulgences are a tool to get people's money.
Yeah.
Okay. So 67.
This is just all about indulgences. Okay.
The entire thing is about indulgences.
Yeah.
So 67, the indulgences which the demagogues acclaim as the greatest graces are actually understood to be such only insofar as they promote gain.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he's saying that anyone claimed that indulgences were the greatest graces.
Yeah.
And again, having read other of Luther's work is extremely hyperbolic and insane.
Right, yeah.
Again, I do agree with you. The fact that they were that nice to him to give him that long of a chance to take only less than half of these back. They were like, you'd only have to take half of this back.
Yeah.
68, they are nevertheless in truth the most insignificant graces when compared with the grace of God and the piety of the cross. Yes. Duh.
Yeah.
Okay. 69, vavavoom, bishops and curates are bound to admit the commissaries of papal indulgences with all reverence.
Okay.
I can't refute that or
But yeah, I think that's just a premise for the next part.
Yeah. The 70, they are much more bound to strain their eyes and ears lest these men preach their own dreams instead of what the Pope has commissioned.
I think it keeps going for this.
Yeah, 71. Let him who speaks against the truth concerning papal indulgences be anathema and accursed. 72. But let him who guards against the lust and license of the indulgent spirituals be blessed. 73. Just as the Pope justly thunders against those who by any means whatever contrive harm to the sale of indulgences. 74. Much more he intend to thunder against those who use indulgences as pretext to contrive harm to holy love and truth. Yeah, and the next one we can break there. It's these ones to me, and again, this was kind of the early. Would you ascribe the birth of the modern period to this moment?
Yes, I often do with Luther.
Because when I read this, it's not necessarily that he would even be aware of this shift.
Yeah.
But he is offering his personal visceral responses to a thing as if they are fact.
Right, yeah.
Because thesis 69 to 74 here specifically are a visceral reaction to something.
Yes.
That's not the Pope justly thunders against those who by any means whatever contrive harm to the sale of indulgences. That's an emotional attack on a thing. That's not none of these are arguments.
Yeah.
In the proper sense. They're just, he's just saying that priests have to extol the virtues of indulgences at every opportunity and above all else, or else the Pope is going to kill them for not doing it. He's just, this is such an emotional and visceral response to something he's incorrectly defined.
Yeah.
But he's offering it to them as premises.
Right.
This is like, it's almost like a little poem. From 65 to 74 is like a little.
Yeah. Well, they're just not. I don't know.
They're not like proper premises. And these ones especially, because he'll throw in little catty.
Right. Yeah.
Theses that are just his own interpretation as like little gotcha things.
I mean,
this little like procession of theses is especially heated.
It also just very, 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 very much for the first time after reading like the Jews and their lies and now reading this, it very much concretely puts into place why Nietzsche wrote the way that he did.
Yes, it's weird.
It is. This is so close to Nietzsche.
Yeah. Because Nietzsche's father was a Lutheran minister.
Yeah, and
his father was a Lutheran minister. His father was like part of the Lutheran church in some way.
That it just makes so much sense. It's like, wow, this is it is like reading Nietzsche, except the difference is that Nietzsche is railing against God. Right.
Yeah, he's the fulfillment of
this. Yeah.
No, he's the fulfillment of Lutheran thought.
It is. Yes. Yeah.
If you rail against the church long enough, you rail against God.
Yes. Yeah.
And Nietzsche just did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it also, you could see that influence with Marx.
Yeah.
Definitely like Feuerbach. I wonder if you ever read Feuerbach, but Feuerbach is like this. It's, he just gives little quips like the no to God is a yes to man. It's like that. It just sounds like this, which is just very.
Yeah. So we are reaching the last 20 of these.
Yeah.
20 the 21st to the end. 75 to consider papal indulgences so great that they could absolve a man even if he had done the impossible and had violated the mother of God is madness. No one says that. No one said that.
Right.
I haven't found a resource of anyone that said that.
I know. Yeah.
And again, that's why the farther you get into this, the more it's like weird, like insane emotional and visceral responses to like unconsidered phenomena, which is kind of what Protestantism is.
Right.
But this is like really condensed.
It is.
76. We say on the contrary that papal indulgences can... Whoa, I'm burping a lot. Okay, sorry. 76. We say on the contrary, which there should be commas there. We say, on the contrary, that papal indulgences cannot remove the very least of venial sins as far as guilt is concerned. Who's saying that indulgences have literally no power to remove any sin at all.
Yeah.
Which I think is what you were saying kind of at the beginning, where you pay your penance, but that doesn't absolve you of the guilt for having sinned.
Right. Yeah. You still need to.
Yeah. 77, to say that even St. Peter, if he were now Pope, could not grant greater graces is blasphemy against St. Peter and the Pope. Now Pope could not grant greater... I don't know. 78, we say on the contrary that even the present Pope or any Pope whatsoever has greater graces at his disposal, that is the gospel, spiritual powers, gifts of healing, etc., as it is written. That even the present Pope or any Pope whatsoever, I don't know. Yeah. 79, to say that the cross emblazoned with the papal coat of arms and set up by the indulgence preachers is equal in... Man, they're really wild with these commas right now. There's not supposed to be a comma there. To say that the cross emblazoned with the papal coat of arms and set up by... There's not supposed to be a comma. It's not a separate sentence. This is really bothering me. The whatever Lutheran website, like the official Luther dot whatever, Lutheran dot whatever would... I mean, this is their guy, so why would they care about grammar? But to say that the cross emblazoned with the papal coat of arms and set up by the indulgence preachers is equal in worth to the cross of Christ is blasphemy. What? To say that this comma is really, really disturbing me. Because it's semantic, and I don't know if this is the same thing or a separate thing. Okay. To say that the cross emblazoned with the papal coat of arms and set up by the indulgence preachers is equal in worth of cross. Did anyone say that? The cross of Christ?
Yeah, I don't.
That is a loaded. That's just a. He sets up this angry emotional argument against indulgences, and then he bases like 25 theses off of his semantically overloaded redefinition of penance or repentance or whatever he said.
Yeah.
So now he's like, the cross emblazoned with the papal coat of arms and set up by the indulgence preachers is equal in worth to the cross of Christ is blasphemy. It's like, who said that representation of the actual thing was more worthwhile? He's being hyperbolic.
Right, yes.
Okay, so 80.
Very Nietzsche. I'm just shocked so far. How close is this like to reading Nietzsche? Okay, keep going.
Okay, 80. The bishops, curates, I don't know how to say that, and theologians who permit such talk to be spread amongst the people will have to answer for this. What such talk? The things you're saying
about just basically people who are promoting indulgences.
Okay. They're paying for it. 81. This unbridled preaching of indulgences makes it difficult even for learned men to rescue the reverence which is due to the Pope from slander or from the shrewd questions of the laity. Unbridled preaching of indulgences makes it difficult even. So it's like you are so overdoing the indulgence things that it means even intelligent and pious people have a hard time defending it.
Yeah.
82, such as, and then there's these it's a lot of these are questions.
Okay, yeah.
These are questions from the laity.
Yeah.
Which we have to assume are real.
Yeah.
82, such as, why does not the Pope empty purgatory for the sake of holy love, and the dire need of the souls that are there if he redeems an infinite number of souls for the sake of miserable money with which to build a church? The former reason would be most just, the latter is most trivial. Again, yeah. He really hates St. Peter's Basilica. 83 again. Why are funeral and anniversary masses for the dead continued? And why does he not return or permit the withdrawal of the endowments funded for them, since it is wrong to pray for the redeemed?
Okay.
What does that mean?
Like, I guess he doesn't really see why we need to pray for the dead. So that's what it seems like to me.
Anniversary masses of the dead continued, and why does it, so since it is wrong to pray for the redeemed, meaning the saved? Is that what he means by redeemed?
I guess because if they're already in purgatory, they're already on their way to heaven. So I guess, yeah, that he sees no point in praying for the dead.
So it's more of a practical argument than a theological.
No, I think it's a theological one because a lot of times the indulgences was for the dead. Like you pay for the indulgence for the dead. Okay. So, yeah.
84 again. And I say again because it's literally written there. What is the new piety of God and the Pope that for a consideration of money they permit a man who is impious and their enemy to buy out of purgatory the pious soul of a friend of God, and do not rather, comma, because of the need of that pious and beloved soul, comma, free it for pure love's sake.
So why not just free it without indulgences? Just for the sake of love. Okay.
I like these commas. This really bothers me. No, it just bothers me that this is their like official resource for this, and it's written ingrammatically. That's my takeaway. Sorry. I don't know what it's okay. There's a correct way to write a language, right?
Yeah.
I know that you're not as in tune with that. And it doesn't bother you as much. But there are standards.
Yeah, I know. No, I agree. Yeah.
If only you knew them. Amanda editing your papers.
Yeah, of course.
One second. I'm reading comments on so. Okay. QWERTY says, I think that he is saying, what he is saying is that if the Pope had the power via indulgences to free all from purgatory, why would he even need funeral masses anymore?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the Pope doesn't have the power to just free everyone from purgatory.
Or he doesn't, yeah.
Yeah. But that's what Luther is saying. If everybody can just pay money and be out of purgatory, why doesn't he just do that?
Yeah.
That's not.
But he does.
You're misunderstanding indulgences if that's what you think.
But he also says, why not just do it out of love, right? Out of sake, for love's sake, rather than for money. And so I do still think that is his main, like, point of contention.
Yeah,
is that they're getting money out of it, and so why not just do it out of sake of love rather than having why?
So again, the only reason that you would have take any issue with the church receiving money is if you didn't think the church was using money correctly.
Yes, yeah, and that you ought to that you believe that you ought to care what the church is using the money for. Like you should have a say to it, and I really do think that is a very it's very
democratic.
Yes, it's a very Anglo-Saxon.
Well, I mean, really, if you actually submit yourself to the authority of the church, you trust them to do the right thing with it.
No, that's the thing.
You shouldn't even concern yourself with it because you should just.
Yeah, that's what I mean. In the end, it's not a concern for you, but you shouldn't trust that we're not going to abuse it. Like we.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You just trust. They'll do whatever they're going to do with it, and it's probably the right thing. That's fine. I don't really.
Well, not that it's probably the right thing. It's that they're just going to do whatever they want to do with it.
Okay.
It's like it's no longer your concern. You have submitted to the church.
Okay.
And now you can believe all you want that the bishops are as corrupt as fuck, and they're just going to use it for evil.
But that's not your concern.
Yes, at that point,
because you did what you were supposed to do.
Yes, you are submitting to the church, and if you see your priest or your bishops,
and then
or your
someday maybe those corrupt bishops or whatever will not be corrupt anymore, and
you pray for them. You'd be like, oh no, shit, they shouldn't be doing that. But the idea It's really
the bishops themselves are not the church.
I know, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's this entitlement attitude that he has that I find with a lot of like Americans and Western culture in general, is that this entitlement that you ought to know what the other is using the money that you gave them for, and that you're justified in knowing. It's like you're justified in knowing, and that.
Well, it's just a weird concept of ownership of things.
It is, yeah. And that they ought to be using it for X, Y, and Z, and if not, I'm not going to do it anymore. Yeah. It's like, well, but again, then it becomes an investment, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, it attributes moral value to money that money doesn't have.
Yes, but it also takes away your giving of the money.
Yes, what I mean is the money becomes like almost an extension of the self. In a way that like it's now an extension of me.
Yeah.
It's part of my being. And then they're misappropriating part of me to do that.
And in some ways, the only time really, and the reason why I keep using this term, because in business is the only time where I would say it's appropriate for you to care about it is when you invest your money, because an investment is an exchange.
Well, it's an expectation of a return.
Yes, and so you are expect something in return. When you give your money to the church, you're not really expecting something in return.
Well, you're giving your money to Christ.
Yes.
You're giving your money to God.
That's what you're doing. And now, should the priest and a bishop use it for the good? Of course. Yeah. I'm not denying that, but if they don't, that doesn't lessen what you have given, nor is it of your concern anymore. Beyond just basic human love. Yeah. Like if you love your neighbor, you want them to use their money appropriately, right? You don't want them to buy prostitutes and porn. I guess, do people pay for porn anymore?
No.
Okay. Just,
all free, baby.
Well, yeah, people shouldn't be using their money for evil. But that's just true about everybody. That's not just true about the bishops and the popes. Yeah. That's true about everybody. And so if you have Christian love for them, you should pray for them and hope that they use it for the good. But this transactional attitude is like, I'm giving the Pope the money.
It's weird because he hates Jews, but all Germans are like the Jews of Europe. I think that I really think that Germans hate Jews because Jews are better at Jewing than Germans are.
Yes, yeah,
and Germans
are. Yeah.
Are like the second best at Jewing.
Yes.
Germans are.
Yeah.
Like everything he's saying is very Jewy to me.
Yeah.
But the Jews are actually good at it. I don't know. I sense some jealousy amongst the Germans as far as the degree to which Jews.
We should rewrite history and say that Hitler was just
Hitler
jealous.
Really.
He wanted to out-Jew the Jews.
Yeah, I think he did.
He did.
I think the Jews were better at what he wanted to do than he was.
Yes.
Anyway. Which one were you on?
85.
Yeah, so 85 again. Why are the penitential canons long since abrogated and dead in actual fact? And through disuse, now satisfied by the granting of indulgences as though they were still alive and in force. Again, weird. He's making a claim about the historical usage of quote unquote penitential canons.
Yeah,
and I don't want to say anything dumb, pretending like I know what that is if it's a specific thing,
right? Which, I know I keep saying it, but I think it's worth saying it, which is, it seems very Nietzschean here, where he talks about how it's being dead. Because Nietzsche uses that language all the time about God and about the church and about everything, is that it is dead, and we're playing with a dead corpse of God and so on and so forth. That there is this idea of historical reality where these transcendentals in some way have died now in history. But anyways, we could keep going.
86?
Yeah.
86 again. Why does not the Pope, whose wealth is today greater than the wealth of the richest Crassus, build this one basilica of St. Peter with his own money rather than with the money of poor believers? The Pope doesn't have money. What is he talking about?
What
is he talking about?
It sounds like the anarchists.
What is he talking about, though?
Because the money of indulgences. And so he's saying that.
No, he's saying, why does the Pope not use his own money to build that instead of the church's money? The Pope doesn't have money.
Right, yes, yeah. But
the Pope is like part of the church.
Yeah. They probably get some money for like food and all that shit.
Yeah, but he's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I guess he's just equating the money that exists in
the
St.
church.
Peter
This is
Basilica as
it's
his.
just the popes. The church's money is all the pope's money,
Yeah, yeah.
which is actually instantiates more power in the office of the pope than even Catholics do.
Yes, yeah.
He's actually elevating the influence of the pope to a greater degree than Catholics do. In that, he's saying that the pope
has his own money.
No, the pope gave up all of that to serve the church as the pope.
Yes.
He lives in a nice place, but like, I'm sure he eats like nice food, but the pope isn't making like stupid amounts of money off of being the pope. He just, and again, maybe he's talking about something historical of which I'm not aware.
Right.
I don't know that.
That could be the case.
But
yeah,
I'm sure there has been a pope that used the office to enrich himself.
Yes.
One. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
could have even been 10, but it's just
there's hundreds. But
but in the end of the day, his concern about it is what's weird for me. His concern about it is just
So 87 again. Why does the Pope remit or grant to those who by perfect contrition already have a right to full remission and blessings? So why does the Pope remit or grant to those who by perfect contrition already have a right to full remission and blessings? What is granting to someone if without an object? Granting to them what? Is that
contrition? I guess or the blessings of
why
the blessings of what is that? Of the indulgences, I guess.
I know, but it's a weird sentence.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is an English thing, but it's weird to say, why does he not remit or grant to those?
No, it says what? What does the Pope remit or grant to those already?
I thought I said why.
Have a
I'm just
right
illiterate.
To a full remission of the blessings.
Nothing?
I don't know. Let's just move on.
88 again. What greater blessing could some gold guy says sola fides nuts? Sola fides nuts.
Yes.
Thanks, gold guy. I think that's Seamus, but his picture has a Kieran Seamus.
Oh, okay.
Seamus Mick Igorov. He's apparently
he's a
Russian.
Mick and a Russian?
Well, he's a Mick, not ethnically.
Oh, okay.
But in Scotland, it's a whole thing.
Oh, okay.
He's a mess.
Yes.
He's ethnically just an ethnic train wreck, really.
More so than me.
Yeah, imagine being a Slav with a Irish accent in Scotland. I wouldn't know what to do. Me and my perfect English ethnicity, I feel I couldn't imagine. But anyway, 88 again. What greater blessing could come to the church than if the Pope were to bestow these remissions and blessings on every believer 100 times a day, as he now does but once? So he's just saying the Pope doesn't do enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that it?
Yeah, I think so.
No, it'd be so much better if the Pope did more. 89, since the Pope seeks the salvation of souls rather than money by his indulgences, why does he suspend the indulgences and pardons previously granted when they have equal efficacy? I don't know what that means. That to me sounds like a reference to something specific.
Right, yeah.
90, we're in the top 6, final 6. To repress these very sharp arguments of the laity by force alone and not to resolve them by giving reasons is to expose the church and the Pope to the ridicule of their enemies and to make Christians unhappy. So he's saying crusade's bad.
No, the what he's expressing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is what? to repress these very bargains by force.
That needs to
So
be
he's-
answered by the church.
Okay.
If not, it's going to be exposed to church and the Pope with the ridicule.
Like, Christians are going to be mad if you don't answer me.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's what he's saying. Yeah.
I speak for everyone. 91. If therefore indulgences were preached according to the spirit and intention of the Pope, all these doubts would be readily resolved. Indeed, they would not exist. Oof.
Yeah.
92. Away then with all those prophets who say the people of Christ, peace, peace, and there is no peace. I don't know what that means. He's referring to something specific.
Jeremiah 6:14.
Yeah. Blessed be all those prophets who say to the people of Christ, cross, and there is no cross. Again, I don't know
Okay.
what that is.
That one he just made up himself.
Yeah. there's no reference.
Yeah.
94. Christians should be exhorted to be diligent in following Christ, their head, through penalties, death, and hell. No Oxford comma there, but several Oxford commas beforehand then. 95. And thus be confident of entering into heaven through many tribulations rather than through the false security of peace.
Acts 14:22. He apparently finds that profound.
The ending part.
I want to read what that says, because obviously he finds it profound.
Okay, because to me the last 5 there have nothing to do with the rest of it.
He's saying I think he's basically saying just reject indulgences.
Yeah.
And that you are saved not by indulgences, but by, I guess, through Christ. Where is it? Acts.
I'm responding to my mother's text really quick.
Why can't I?
What are you're
There it
looking
is.
up the reference?
Yeah. Acts 14:22.
Mm-hmm. Read that.
Is she talking about the episode or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
She sent me a text about
It says
when car parts I ordered are to arrive in the mail.
Then, with fasting and prayer, they appointed presbyters for them in each of the churches and commanded them to take care of the Lord in whom they have learned to believe.
What?
Let's just talk at the early church, I guess, when they appointed certain presbyters. So it says, and thus the confidence entering the heaven through many tribulations rather than the false security of peace. I really don't know what that has to do with that, but okay.
So I mean, it really is just a screed against indulgences.
Yes.
Against the Pope and indulgences. And
Yeah.
what's really funny is after reading this,
Yeah.
when they're like, "Oh, he didn't know it'd make anyone mad.
Yeah, no.
He didn't expect it to be as controversial as it was." Yeah. It's like, "Oh, was he stupid?"
For anybody listening and not watching the video, I'm sick, and so
No,
if
I
you
know,
hear
yeah.
the blowing, it's just from that.
The
But anyways.
blowing of the nose.
Yes, yeah. The blowing of the job.
the like vigorous fellatio off mic. Just because you're sick. Anyway.
Okay, I'll stop.
You're like, no, I think I'll keep going. Anyway.
But yeah. Yeah, that's what.
Because you've never read this before.
No, I've never read this before. I mean, this is basically just a thesis against indulgences.
Yeah.
That's all it really is.
Yeah.
And I mean, whether he is rejecting the Pope altogether, I don't really think in this text he is.
I don't think he is.
Yeah.
I think he begins to reject the Pope when the Pope gets mad at him for this.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he does. The texts have long names.
Yeah.
There's several texts he wrote. Many he had very close friends that refuted this.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Pretty hostile.
Yeah.
In a pretty hostile fashion. Let me find the name of the guy really quick. Because I kind of read some summaries of it, and it's worth looking at. Really quick. So this is the Wikipedia article on Switchfoot. Is not where I want to be at all. But he, there's a whole process of this was an academic work.
Yeah.
That was designed and written to evoke an academic response. Some of his friends, I'm trying to find the name of the guy, is Johann Eck, ECK. He wrote a refutation to one of the bishop. And it's titled Obelisks, which I guess obelisks is the name of a certain it marks heretical passages in texts from like the Renaissance, maybe the medieval period. They would, when they were like annotating texts, anything heretical was marked with an obelisk.
Yeah.
And then if I remember right, Luther responded to that work, which I guess was extremely personal and attacking in a way that Luther didn't expect.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of his friends wrote this thing that like really, really burned him. He wrote a response called Asterisks.
Yeah.
Which asterisks were used to, I think it was mark divinely inspired text.
Oh.
But it was essentially a back and forth between him and other academics, and then him, and then the Archbishop, and then him, and the Vatican. And he was invited to the Vatican a couple times to discuss what he'd written. It was demanded that he recant. I think the number is 41 of these. I don't know, because some of them are just true.
Right. Yeah.
Many of them are just obvious observations of truth.
Yeah.
It was just under half. And he just refused to do it. And then he was excommunicated in 1521 and then died excommunicated.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what started off the whole.
Yeah.
This writing is what started off the Protestant revolt.
Yes. Yeah. I know historically, like within that time, it was in the like 1520s. I can't remember what the exact date is, but that's when he ended up marrying one of his mistresses, who was one of the nuns. Yeah. I think there was like 12 or 13. I can't remember the exact number. But he like culminated some of the nuns, and then one of them he was like fucking this whole time. And then he like married her at that point. And I mean, it's not a what his motive was. I honestly think is unclear.
Oh yeah.
In all reality, I don't think that any explanation of his motive actually being prudent is acceptable. I do think his motives at this entire time was nefarious,
hubristic in some way.
Yeah, it was either sexually driven, which is so like
like he wanted to marry a nun.
Yes,
and couldn't. Okay.
Yes, I really do think that was a big part of it, because he was fucking her for a while already, and this is documented. And then once he broke out is when he ended up marrying her. And they were like 20 years apart, you know. She was like this young hot chick, and he was already in his 40s. I mean, which is proper.
Good for him.
Yes, I'm not saying that part is improper, but it's hard to see that, to believe that, given all of this surrounding actions, you know, writing his own catechism, writing further documentations, not really trying to clarify, because when they tell you to recant certain things, they first ask you to clarify. And then are you looking it up?
Yeah. Katharina von Bora was the wife, German reformer, beyond what is found in the writings of Luther, and some little is known about her. Despite this, Katharina is often considered an important participant in the Reformation.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a big part of it.
Yeah, she was a big deal in like clergy marriages and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway.
There was a lot more to his like mission than just the selling of indulgences. But you know, like writing your own catechism, I think is already nefarious on itself. And then wanting to very, very German looking. What was the age difference? Was I right, or was it about 20 years?
1499 and 1483, so 17 years.
17 years. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and then they...
that's just the time period.
Right, it is, yeah. But yeah, and then it was like there was a lot of things going on within his life when he did this and when he broke away. Because when, like what happened with Meister Eckhart, for example. So Meister Eckhart wrote quite a few things, and then
I would like to cover him at some point.
Yeah.
He's the
another German.
Well, he's the kind of the locus of
Heideggerian thought.
Yes, phenomenology.
Yes,
but he wasn't heretical.
He wasn't,
Yet.
No,
phenomenology was not yet.
There were first potential heresies of his writings, and so they first asked him to clarify. I can't remember how many of his theses, but he had to clarify first, and that's normally what they tell you. They're like, "Well, we want to give you the benefit of the doubt. Can you clarify these?" And obviously, Luther didn't want to clarify it. Yeah. He just dug his deeper. But Meister Eckhart actually did clarify, and through that, he no longer was viewed as heretical. And so there was a process.
Because he did, well, Eckhart, he wrote a lot about the experience of Christianity and of God in a way that hadn't been done before.
Yes.
And it was a lot of new phraseology.
It was, like the Godhead and stuff like that. It was just very different.
Yeah.
It was the first one written not in Latin. It was written in German. And so there was a lot for him to answer for. But
he did.
In the end, he did, right? There's a proper channel. The fact that Luther from the very beginning didn't, I would say, well, then there's other motivation, because there's, and there's no greater motivation than the pussy.
for you, yeah.
For most men.
Yeah.
For most men, the pussy is a very huge driving motivation for many things.
Yeah.
And
I'm very happy for you.
And so the fact that he had this, and I think any man that is this way, you can begin to think, okay, I get it now, right? I see what you're going for. I see why you're doing this, because that kind of motivation could get you down a certain path that is unstoppable. I mean, you just become an unstoppable force when it has to deal with a pussy. And one cannot just be like, well, he just happened to fall in love after got excommunicated and just, it just happened. It's like, bullshit. No, it didn't just happen.
Yeah, it was years.
Any guy that has fucked women, it doesn't just happen. There's things that you do. There are interactions that.
So that's your intuition, is that you really liked a lady.
I think he just wanted. I think it was a huge driving force. She probably pushed him. Even when you read like the good things like Einstein, because Einstein was kind of a womanizer. And then it was really his girlfriend that pushed him to kind of write Silites and Relativity and stuff. And so, like, if I were to look at that, I'll be like, well,
Is this why Aquinas is so impressive?
Yes. Because he didn't have
chasing women out with brooms.
Yes, yeah. He just wasn't concerned with it, right? You see someone like King Henry VIII, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, Anne Boleyn, he found hot. She didn't give him the pussy unless he divorced his wife, and he really wanted that pussy. And so that was like the motivation to say, fuck all of it. I know just a year ago.
England is looking now.
He was like, a year ago, I defended the church. I was doing whatever, but she's 18 and hot. And so then they're just like, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice and get rid of all of this for that.
Yeah.
And to me, what other...
It's weird to you that anyone would find that confusing or
Yes. It's like, no. She was young. She was a nun. He was fucking her. She probably pushed him to do some things. He agreed with it. You get caught up with the emotions. Like, you're like, oh yeah, fuck the church, fuck the man. They're using my money for bad shit. And then
they're using my money for bad shit.
and then you're just like, you keep fucking and you keep going deeper into it. And it leads you to a rabbit hole that I don't think he was able to get out of.
Amazing.
That really is my theory. Is I know it's simplistic, but it's like there's
No, I think it's just human nature.
yes. I don't think it's that much different than King Henry VIII's motivation to break from the church.
Yeah.
I think it had to do with women. I think it had to do with a young lady that caught his eye. He wanted it badly. She did too.
Enough to completely destroy
And enough to-
Western civilization.
Look what
as
Henry
we do
VIII.
it.
Look what Henry VIII did. That's what he did it for Anne Boleyn, and then he beheaded her a few years later. It's like that's what guys do. It's stupid.
Yeah.
But that's what in the end that's what they do is when they get tempted by that, it is their downfall. I think we talked about that in the podcast for Henry VIII. The bishop was literally saying, dude, we will even make your bastard children legitimate. You know, we're good with that. We will make them legitimate. He still turned it down. Why do you think he turned it down?
Because she said no.
Yes. He was like, I
want to be your wife.
I am the king. I need that pussy. Right? She's saying no to me. No, I'm gonna get that. And you when you have that kind of masculine energy, like I'm
And
gonna
power
win.
to do it.
Yes, and the powers. I'm gonna win by any means necessary. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna conquer it. And I'm gonna do it. And you end up doing stupid shit for that.
The UK for all of eternity.
Yes, for that. And so
Hasn't the Anglican church has been dwindling, hasn't it?
yeah, it has.
They've been having a return to the church.
To Catholicism, I think. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. From the statistics that I looked at, there is a growing number.
Man,
of
it
that.
takes so long to recover from stuff like that.
I know. Yes. Moral of the story: don't get tempted by the horse.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes, they will plummet you down.
Well, do you have anything else to say about this?
No.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we have to.
Yeah.
Have you watched any of the? This is a total pivot because
Yeah.
I still have momentum.
Yeah. Me too.
Did you watch any of the speeches by Giorgia Meloni, the new prime minister of
Oh
Italy?
yes, yeah. Yeah, she's amazing.
So jealous. All of the American dissident right guys I,
know,
knew
yeah.
were like, "Oh my god!"
I know. Yeah.
She's literally doing this at the microphone.
Yeah.
Italians have such a
I know.
commanding
It's beautiful.
speech delivery.
Yeah.
There's a reason that culture invented culture as we know it.
I know. Yeah. It's beautiful.
So good.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
No, yeah.
like Mussolini's great grandson is
I
running
know.
for office.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah,
I
he's
didn't
got
know.
posters that say Mussolini on it.
Oh, that's amazing.
No, it is. What do you think of Mussolini? What do you think of the?
I think he did some good.
He also obviously he was atheist or whatever.
I know.
it was.
Yeah.
It's obvious.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he was a completely evil bastard. I think that's why a lot of times he is nowhere near compared to Hitler or Stalin. It was you talk about Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, and then there's Mussolini as almost secondarily evil.
Well, he also did flip
yeah,
between.
that's true.
Didn't he ally with the Americans, but right before he died or something? There was some kind of
Yeah.
wishy-washy. Italy had a reputation for siding with whoever was advantageous at the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is correct.
Which is Italian.
I mean, Italians invented politics, really.
Yeah,
They perfected politics.
Them and the Greeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Because I would say the Greeks behave the same way.
yes.
Yeah.
What was it? The Greeks invented sex, and the Italians invented sex with women, or something. I don't remember what the quip is.
I never heard that one.
Yeah, I think it's the Greeks invented sex, and then the Italians invented sex with women. I think is what the. I think that's the line.
Yeah,
I don't remember
yeah.
who said that first.
That's
But
good.
yeah, watching speeches of hers,
Yeah.
it's like
I know.
she's beautiful,
Yeah.
passionate, has beautiful speech delivery,
Oh, yeah.
says everything. She's quoting Chesterton and Scruton
I know.
in speeches.
It's
Obviously,
awesome.
they're English guys, but
But still, yeah.
it's what is going on?
I know. That's amazing. I congratulated my friend Francesco. I was like,
Did he like it?
yeah.
She's very popular, isn't she?
Yeah. Yeah, I think she's hated by a lot, but yeah, she's pretty popular over there.
I mean, hated by a lot you could be hated by 40%. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like Trump basically. I think. Yeah.
Weird, but he likes her.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Him and Erika moved back to Italy because they were living in Belgium, but now they moved back over there.
When did they move back?
About a month ago, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Like they were out of Italy because it was so bad, or?
Yeah, they had better work in Belgium at that point.
Oh, but they're like, this is too good. We got to be there. Or
is
it completely independent?
Yeah, it's independent from politics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's but yeah, it's pretty good. And then on top of that, now they have a new prime minister. I gotta finish mine.
I know you're still.
Keep drinking. That's fine.
That's fine. I know you're sick, but this is, the thing that you predicted was, what did Phaser predict exactly? Is that he was observing the age of atheism?
Yeah,
the new atheist saying everyone will revert to Catholicism.
He was saying that basically it's going to be a blessing in disguise because many Catholics have become lazy.
Yeah.
And then new atheism forced them to I shouldn't say rethink, but I guess revisit great Catholic theologians and theology in order to combat with them.
Yeah.
And it really, I think culturally now it got to the point that atheists are pretty much laughable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If somebody claims to be atheist, you kind of already think, okay, then you're kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of that
who let you out of Reddit?
Right, yes, yeah. And I think a lot of that had to do with the great works that people like Phaser did.
Yeah.
People like Bishop Barron did. I think a lot of these people just, they saw what the culture was going towards, and then they're like, whoa, you have to rethink this. You have to rethink all of this. And it was just something that I think was actually very beneficial. I think most Catholics that I meet now at least know some basic theology.
Yeah.
Where I would say back in the 90s, that just really wasn't the case. Most Catholics that I would meet were just very, very...
Because that was something that both the old couple that are teaching the RCIA class, the dorky ones, and the deacon, is they both... and they're asking like, oh, why are you here? And something. I tell them like, I'm intellectually converted first.
Yeah.
And I say stuff like, I'm really interested in like analytical metaphysics and stuff. And like, I'm a huge Aquinas respecter. And they go like, oh. And they're like, yeah, if you think you can add anything to the class, let me. Like they just immediately are like, oh, you're already out of my depth.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Which is cool. They're willing to admit that.
I know. Yeah.
But it's weird because all the like 20 something Catholics I know are like all like Aquinas nerds.
I know. Yeah. It's amazing because they are, it's going to sound cheesy, but they really are the future. They're the ones that are going to be able to teach their kids or friends' kids or catechize within the church. Many of the youths, or theology. Yeah. And it really did present that to them. Like many of the Dominicans here in at the cathedral who are very young, they all converted because of that time. Many of them were atheists in their 20s, when they're in their teens.
Oh, because of the new atheist thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they revisited many of these things. And it just, in the end, there's, and then there's even ones that aren't Catholic. Well, I mean, I think he is, but he never wants to admit it, like Jordan Peterson. I think
he's Orthodox.
Orthodox, yeah.
He's going Orthodox.
Which
really makes the Solzhenitsyn thing. It would make sense.
Yeah, it would, yeah.
Regardless, their sacraments are legit outside if you can't access Catholic.
Yes,
ones.
yeah. And they have many similar early theologians, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, but once you look at that, you can't begin, especially like we talked earlier about the show, like speaking to somebody like what's that fuckface's name again?
Thaddeus?
Thaddeus Fagius.
We were going to name the episode Thaddeus Gets Maddiest. Do you remember that?
We should still name it that when we release it. But
I'm getting grilled. Someone asks in the Twitter, he asked if we were live. And I said yes. And he said, what are you eating? And I said, nothing. He goes, how do you record a show without at least some cheese? Like, stop. He's so correct, but anyway.
Yeah, I know. Cheese and
I think we
wine.
have to.
Yes.
Should we have cheese from now on?
We could, yeah.
Okay.
Some crackers.
Season 4 theme is always have cheese.
Oh, cheese and wine. Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Even if they're like the cheap cubes.
Yeah, whatever.
They're good. Okay. But anyways, yeah.
Season 4 theme is cheese. It's the only difference.
I think many of these people contributed to exposing the silliness to the point that even dipshits like the ones who were interviewing Sam Harris when Sam Harris began to talk, they kind of were just like staring at him like he's stupid.
How do we know heaven exists when we have these satellites beaming images?
Yeah. So
they're like,
it's like when you realize that just 15 years ago he was actually taken serious, that he was like a best-selling author, and so many young people were just enamored by him and Daniel Dene and
Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens.
Yes,
Christopher Hitchens was funny though.
He was, but still,
he was gross and funny, but he at least was like entertaining.
Yeah.
He's the only entertaining one.
Yeah,
of course, if he died early. Many years ago. Didn't he die of cancer or something?
I think so, yeah. But yeah, like 15
God's
20.
like, nope, you're the effective one. Nope.
Yeah, we're just
taking you off the board.
We're just gonna leave you with Ben Stiller's cousin over here.
Nope, he's too funny.
His uglier looking cousin.
That picture I use of him. I made it my profile picture and people got mad.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, I have it saved on my work computer.
Of what's his name?
Sam Harris.
Which one is it?
Can people people know? People know.
Ben Stiller's uglier cousin.
It was my profile picture was like this. People were like, "It's so upsetting. Can you please change it?" Do you need to see it again? Why are you laughing so hard? Did I ever?
It's upsetting.
You're laughing so hard.
It's upsetting to look at his face. Like zoomed in.
It's that article. Do you know that article I'm talking about? The Sam Harris is a fraud.
Yeah.
But watch here. So if I Google, you're just dying. Sam
Show me the face.
Harris is a fraud. I'm going to show you all the pictures they use on this. Where is the article? So if we go to Quora, they're going to send us to this article about Sam Harris being a fraud, and I want to show you all the pictures they use. Where is it? I don't even know how to find this link anymore. It was something I sent you a long time.
I remember in the group chat when I said Sam Harris is Ben Stiller's uglier cousin, somebody wrote, I can't remember who it was, it might have been Jay.
Can we imagine being Sam Harris and Ben Stiller's uglier cousin?
Yeah. That was a perfect response.
Dang, I don't even know. Oh, here it is. No, it's
Does it take it down?
No, I just don't remember it's some like blog website.
It was called that though. I remember the title.
Sam Harris is a fraud.
Yeah. They could have taken it down. Maybe he tried to sue them for libel or something.
That would have been in the last like 2 weeks. I've used this link before. Sam Harris is a fraud blog.
Yeah.
I don't know how to find this.
Or article.
I don't know. I don't even remember where I got that picture. But every single picture on the website is like that. They crop it weird.
Just zoom into that fucking smoke.
Sam Harris is a fraud. The God fraud. I thought it was this website. I thought you could look at this. Like, why is this what? This is his image on Google. If you Google him, that's the picture they use next to Wikipedia. It's always a weird cropped zoom of his face. Oh, here it is. Here it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the Rizone. RHIZZONE.
I just found it too.
.net. Like, this picture is weird.
Yeah. He has the exact same ears as Ben Stiller.
This picture is weird.
Yeah.
Every picture they're using, but it's essentially how he like faked his academic credentials and stuff.
Right, yeah.
But like, they literally use this image in the middle of the article. And, oh, I remember I went and found like they use this weird crop. They like use these weird crops of images on this Rizone article. Oh, you remember when Ben Affleck like schooled him on Bill Maher's show?
Could you hold up his picture? Put his picture up again.
Wait, we're going to compare.
Yeah.
The zoomed in one?
Yeah.
The funny one? Okay.
Oh, zoomed in, or even the one that's a little more zoomed out.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think they look like he's like an uglier Ben. Like he makes Ben Stiller look attractive.
He does, yeah. That is insane.
Wow, he actually makes Ben Stiller look attractive, but they look exactly the same. Weird. I haven't actually looked at them side by side.
Yeah.
There was that moment where like Ben Affleck like totally schooled him on the Muslim thing on Bill Maher's show.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, dude, Ben Affleck just schooled you? when he's talking like a cholo. Mis hermanos vivimos en Tijuana, or whatever he said. I don't remember what he said. It was an amazing video where he talks like a cholo.
I know. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, Ben Affleck.
Well, I just put Ben AF, and then it says Ben Affleck speaking Spanish came the first one.
Mis hermanos. I can't even do a good Mexican. My accent in Spanish.
Fueron conmigo en México cuando estuve trabajando en un show para niños, se llama
Mi madre y mi hermano. I can't even do a Mexican accent.
I know.
My accent is so strong in Spanish, I can't even do a Mexican.
His was just perfect.
And he goes like this.
His posture changes.
He does the like shoulder thing that Mexicans do. Estuve trabajando en un show para niños. Mi madre y mi hermano. Cuando estuve trabajando en un show para... I can't even do a Mexican accent.
I know. He must have actually lived in Mexico for a while to do that perfectly.
You know? I can't. It's weird. It's
a weird
Spanish
accent.
I just can't even do it. It's like I have such a strong accent in Spanish that I can't do
the
other regional
Mexican
accent.
one.
I can't even do it.
Yeah.
I'd have to study it. It's a different way of talking.
It is, yeah. Now, I remember my parents always talked to me about it, how different the Mexicans were from all the South. So there's like South Americans, which a lot of the Latinos just view as the actual Latinos. And then there's the Central Americans where they kind of view them as like the
natives,
like the bastards, but they're ones that you still could relate to. And then there's the Mexicans, and the Mexicans are just like the different North American ones who you don't really have. You have very little common with Mexicans, and that's the way that normally many South Americans look at it.
I'm gonna play something. You know, maricon. The word maricon.
Yeah.
I have to play a thing for you.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what his freaking hell, Steve. What's your Steve de Chile? Porque es chileno.
Oh, okay.
Porque chileno es un hombre chileno. He's the whitest Latino ever to live. But I wanted to find my... I don't know if you've ever heard my like...
Maricon?
My actual... It's a hammed up... No! How do you spell mensaje? Is it with a J? Mensaje, okay.
Yeah.
Is that how you spell it? Did I spell it wrong? Is it mensaje with a J? With a J?
I think it is, but let me look it up.
Algo pienso que es muy importante.
It's very Italian almost.
Maricón.
but I do that weird.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's a little hammed up,
Yeah. It's more like Argentinian or Uruguay.
Yeah.
It's very similar with
Da, 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 na, na,
Yeah,
da, da.
yeah.
It's weird as I don't slip into it until I do, and then I have like a rational like "Ooh," like response.
Oh yes.
I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, like
That's so funny.
If you throw me into a place where it's just Spanish speakers, that's when
Your mumbling comes out.
my pre 6-year-old, like everything, because I didn't speak English until I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
And so then everything just it's weird because everything just flows back.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you start getting to the hand gestures, the motions, and the way my parents speak, and then it starts speaking more like my dad. And it just starts flowing out more. And it's weird because it takes me probably about 30 to 40 minutes of just being in that, and then it starts.
Mine's about 5 minutes, but I think my experience is much more recent. Or it was longer. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know what it about 5-10 minutes talking to a Spanish speaker, dip in.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, you just get
My
into
mannerisms get different.
Yeah. All everything just starts getting more and more Peruvian. Just if I get into it, like when I'm speaking with my family, extended family, and everything, it just starts coming out. It's pretty weird. But yeah,
I actually had a lot of experience. The teacher I had, I don't remember his first name was Ugarte was his last name.
Oh yeah.
And he was your height or shorter.
Yeah.
He was married 3 times.
Oh, good.
And he was like 60 and he would like hold himself horizontally on a pole.
Yeah.
And he'd eat raw eggs and almonds for lunch.
Good.
And we used to do the thing I'm sure I've said on the show before, but like he's got like a bunch of 4th graders and he would take us out and play like football on and he would just school us.
Yeah.
He would just flex on us and he's like our height.
That's the way we do it. That's what I did in Holy Rosary when I was teaching there.
You'd take him out to play soccer.
Oh yeah.
And then you just destroy
Of course.
them.
Yeah. Do a bunch of 6th graders. I mean, I kick your ass.
So awesome.
I remember this one time
And he celebrates by holding himself upright, like horizontally off a pole.
Yeah. There was this one time where I kicked the ball and I kicked it too hard and it missed the goal.
Yeah.
Or the makeshift goal that we made in the back.
Yeah.
And then it hit one of those flood lamps on the back and it broke it. And my students look at me and go, I was like, oh shit, let's go. We all just ran back to
everybody's favorite.
Yeah. And then there was like because we heard that the teacher that was in the other room was coming out, and so we ran back. And my classroom was in the end of the building.
Yeah.
And so I had an external
near the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had an external entrance and exit. And so whenever we went to play, I'd just put like a rock to hold it up because it had no doorknob on the outside. Yeah. And so then we all ran in. And then we're like sitting all quietly. And then somebody came into the room and they knocked. And then when it opened up, so can I help you? And it was the headmaster. He was like, yeah, I heard that maybe you guys were outside playing. And then all my students were like, no, we're just all in here.
Beautiful.
Yes. And he was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's just, something was, people were out there and some things broke. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened, man. But like all the students were like just defending that we were in there studying. Yeah, it was good.
Beautiful.
Those were fun times.
Do you know of any Spanish language, like good Spanish language movies or shows or anything?
No, there was this one. I think it's called La Copa. It was
what?
Copa. It was a
Copa?
Copa, like the cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a Peruvian movie actually. It was actually really good about young kids because so in Peru they would play in separate teams to get into to get into larger teams and everything. It was just really about that. But it was more actually about the adolescent life
of soccer playing
of just kids in Peru.
Oh, okay.
It was a really good one.
Because I feel like there has to be good Spanish language media.
Yeah.
I don't see any of it.
Oh, really? Yeah, that one was actually good. All the ones that you see on TV are actually American. They all were filmed in Florida or California. So you would have to look outside of like Univision or Telemundo.
Well, a lot of those are also shot in Mexico.
See, some of them are, but not all of them. Most of them actually are in the U.S.
Now, yes.
Because
it didn't used to be like that.
Because those were always American networks. Those are not actual or like South America or Central American networks. A real one is like SUR, SUR, and so that
SUR?
Yeah.
Like what does that mean?
I actually don't know. That's a Peruvian network.
Oh, I thought you meant a movie title.
No.
There's some kind of movie about it's an Argentinian movie about maybe a footballer who hit a child and killed her on accident in his car. And I remember that being very good. I don't remember the title though. I thought it was Becha, but I don't think it is. What are you looking at?
I'm just trying to find that movie.
La Copa?
Yeah. Because I could be wrong with the title. Because my mom showed it to me.
Argentinian movies? I'm trying to find this one. I don't remember what it's called. I thought it was Becha, but I don't think it is. How do Peruvians say the double L?
Bella.
Bella? They do the yeah sound?
Yeah.
Okay, because I go shh. I do a hard.
Yeah, which is very Argentinian.
Becha, is it?
Yeah.
I don't even know that. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't remember what this movie is called. I need to do research. I think I've mentioned it before, and I don't remember what this is called. Weird. Anyway. Oh, there's a really good Argentinian movie about Eva Perón.
Oh, really?
But it's not Evita. It's not the Madonna one.
I know, yeah.
It's an actual Argentinian movie about Eva Perón. Eva Perón. But, man, I don't remember what this movie is called. I thought it was bad, but it probably isn't. I'm probably thinking of something else. But that's the thing is I think there's a dearth of accessible Spanish language media that's like good.
Yeah.
I know that Narcos was supposed to be good, but that was like American and it's like half in English, half in Colombian Spanish and stuff. But
yeah, like I said, most of the ones that we can encounter here are just because we live in the U.S. and we have so many networks that are owned by the U.S.
Yeah,
that's just what they're going to be, and a lot of them are going to be more Mexican influenced. Just
obviously, culture. That's what sells here.
Yes, that's what sells here. But also the executives that get into Univision or Telemundo is going to be Mexican. Yeah, because that's just and so you're not going to have the South Americans really coming in here much, or maybe a lot of Puerto Ricans. I think in Telemundo
because I do miss like just watching stuff in Spanish and reading.
Yeah,
I've read like half of the original Don Quixote in Spanish, but
did you? Yeah, nice.
It is so intense.
Yeah,
that's what I hate about Spanish literature.
Yeah,
is they're like one sentence is that long on a page at 9 size font.
Yes.
It's like, guys, break your sentences up, please.
Yeah.
And it's the same throughout every single Spanish speaking culture that their sentences are so long.
Right, yeah.
It makes everything so dense to read. Like I was reading like Los Reporteros Salvajes.
Okay.
By Roberto Bolaño, he's a Chilean author.
Yeah.
But it was like about Mexicans or something. And it was just like, every sentence is like 2 minutes long to read. And I just want it broken up a little bit.
Yeah.
Makes pacing very difficult.
Yeah.
When your sentences are like, but, because, and, but nor if and
yeah.
It's like, okay, that one's over. What did that say?
Yeah.
Because French isn't as much like that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Italian's literature is not like that.
Italian would be pretty close.
You think they're pretty wordy?
Yeah. And same thing, yeah. Italians are definitely, from what I've read, is much more closer than French.
Because French can be pretty abrupt.
It is, but French is still much more verbose than English.
German is really, really staccato.
Yes. Yeah.
English is more verbose than German is.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Do you ever want to cover any like German? Aside, we just covered something German, but
yeah.
Like, do you want to ever do like Being in Time or something?
Yeah, we could.
Because Caleb of Austertomism, he just loves anything.
Yes, yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to read Being in Time, or I'm going to read Heidegger, and I'm like, stop, don't stop, stop, because I know you're going to like it for no reason. Stop liking that. Stop.
We could. I think I think maybe we should try to cover like a postmodern though.
You want to?
Yeah.
Another one? Not Foucault?
Because, yeah, not Foucault.
A good one.
Yes, because the one that I
do you
really
want to do like Anti-Oedipus or something?
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty decent text.
Anti-Oedipus?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'd have to read it. There's no audio.
Yeah, I've already read it, but yeah.
Do you remember enough about it?
Yeah, I do actually.
Because what's going to happen is you're like, I don't remember, and then I'm going to have to like retell the text.
Well, because I mean, if you were to ask me a very particular text, then yeah, I'm not going to remember that, but I remember the basic thesis, and I remember the arguments, and I remember what he argues really against Lacan and.
Because I think season 4 of the show is going to be much more focused on covering specific stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think that's kind of an area we've neglected a bit.
We started season 3 with doing that.
Oh, I know, and it was great. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Everybody really enjoyed it. Not that people don't like listening to us banter,
Yeah.
but I think that it helps me focus.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that'll be a pretty interesting text to cover, because he does cover a lot of like the Freudian behaviorism in general. He does reference Lacan, I think maybe more than Freud, but
Because Lacan is he a Freudian?
He's a behaviorist as well.
Because I associate Jung and Lacan.
Yes, both of them are behaviorists.
Yeah.
As well with Freud. All three of them are behaviorists. And so what Anti-Oedipus...
Jung is the one I like the most of all of them, because he's...
Right, yeah.
More just like writes down what he experiences.
Yes, yeah. And I think what's interesting about Deleuze is that he begins to kind of, I guess, take apart the implications that many of the behaviorists attempt to apply to human psychology. And so, like, the famous, like the ones we could discuss really quickly right now is like the famous ones that many of us know, the Oedipus complex, right? Is that the behaviorists try to have a very in-depth analysis of the nature of desire.
Yeah.
And so they're like, why do you desire something? So then maybe they want to go back to you suckling on your mother's teeth.
Well, so behaviorists are essentially, are they phenomenologists? Behaviorism to me seems like an extension of phenomenology, but psychologically as a practice.
I don't think they would say that, but I think there's
that's why, like, well, there's a reason that like Jung and Heidegger were writing at the same time, at least practically. If a behaviorist bases
that's good.
Oh yeah, this is the fact that this was like a $20 bottle or something.
We got to keep this here, so
for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Ooh, we have a little bit of port.
Port is actually pretty good in the afternoon and morning. When I was in Italy,
well, we're recording.
I know it's Portuguese, but when I was in Italy, when I had Porto, it was like
Porto.
It's very, very like an afternoon drink.
It's almost like an after meal thing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So you go to lunch and you get some pizza, and then they give you some port.
We need to get port glasses. The little things.
Yeah. But anyways,
but what I was saying, if I can kind of recollect the thought a bit, is they focus so much on desire because phenomenology, as it presented itself in the 20th century, I know Heidegger tried to either knowingly or unknowingly reconstitute phenomenology as something more objective than it had been previously. I know that he tried to do some like Aristotelian acrobatics to like to he wanted to base reality on the experience of phenomenon, but more objectively than had been done before or something. Which is nonsensical, and which is why he became a poet before he finished the second 2 volumes of Being in Time or whatever. But if you want to conceive of reality as based on experience and the truth derived from perception of the individual, desire would be the praxis. Or the prescription would be whatever you desire is the prescription of based on whatever reality you've contrived. And so, you know, so what the reason that to me it seems that postmodernists focus so much on desire is that's the praxis component of the truth derived from the experience of being.
Yeah, but I think many of the postmodernists focus on it because of the later modernists, especially psychologists, focused on it within their theories. And so they're like Lacan will have very deep description of cross-dressers, and so he will have, you know, this idea that somebody's trying to burst out within their skin and so on and so forth. And whenever you read them, either it's going to be Lacan or it's going to be Freud or Jung, their explanations are always
Neumann,
their explanations are always very like intricate to instances of like reality in which we're trying to burst out. And so what Deleuze and Guattari, because it's a combined text, like they both authored it. What they were, because Guattari is a psychologist and Deleuze is a philosopher. And so what they were trying to say is very similar to, I guess, the way I normally argued, and maybe that's why I found more kinship with them. It was like, you know, that's too much, you know, just like we did with reading this whole thing, right? It's like we could speculate his many motives of doing things. In the end, I'm saying he wanted pussy. And what Deleuze and Guattari are basically saying is like, why do people desire this? It isn't because of this longing for their mother or to go back into their womb and whatever. He was saying it's because people are narcissists. It's like, it's a simple explanation. It's like, why do people do that? Why does a woman desire a dress? It's because she likes the way she looks in it. She likes the way people give her attention for it. It makes her feel good. That's the reason why.
It doesn't need to be any more articulate than that.
Yes, it doesn't have to be any more than that. And it's something that I think was just correct. And the unfortunate aspect of it was after behaviorism, they didn't go with that kind of explanation. Rather than they went to like eliminative materialist explanation where everything is simply contingent upon neurons firing as a reaction towards stimuli. And that I think someone like Deleuze and Guattari are going to both say is like, well, that's equally as moronic as behaviorism. It's like we can describe human behavior, but we have to realize that the description of human behavior in its essence many times just simple. We're not gods. Like we desire things because of what it does for us in the end of the day. So it doesn't matter what it is. It's like you want to satiate hunger. There's no deeper reason why besides the enormous pleasure that you get with satiating hunger. There's no deeper reason why, you know, Martin Luther. So that's
what the anti-Oedipus title is about.
It is,
It's anti-Oedipus complex.
Yes, it's And so it goes deep into like very well descriptive of Lacan and Freudian worldviews. And that's what it begins with. And then in the end, it just kind of says why those explanations, Like, not necessarily that they're bunk, but those explanations are unnecessary to sufficiently explain why people want something. Is that in the end, we could say that a woman likes to be desired.
Mm-hmm.
And so because a woman likes to be desired, they like to dress with skin-tight skirts, high heels, lipstick, and so on and so forth, because because women inherently are selfish, narcissist beasts. And so because women are narcissists, they require the attention of men in order to feel beautiful. And so they begin to do activities in order to, I guess, gain that sense of beauty within them. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we could take particular individuals who have went through trauma, and they they might have deeper, but in general, the general population, not everybody is like raped since the age of 5. And so it's like, you take the general population, and so then they begin to they begin to desire things simply for the sake of the self. And I think when you look at the contemporary world, that's beginning what we could kind of see is like, why are there a mass population of young people wanting to claim as being transgender? I don't think there's any deeper explanation besides narcissism.
Yeah,
is that they want to be paid attention to. This gives them attention. And so they're going to go balls deep into this idea because it gives them that satisfaction of, look at me, I am this. That's why everybody wants to partake in,
well, it's weird to me that a psychological school of thought would not attribute sufficient weight to the reality of narcissism to let it just be its own explanation.
Yes, yeah.
That like, oh, no one could actually be that narcissistic, so we have to develop this.
Yeah, this entire world. I mean, because it does get complex. Like the more you read behaviorists, it gets so complex, and like this web of connections, basically, of all these different attributes.
To me, when and I've read a lot of Jung, and it's not the same thing as like Freudian thought, because he and Freud ended up hating Jung.
Yeah, yeah.
After, I don't remember what year it was. It was like 1917, 18, 19 or something. He essentially published they developed a friendship and a correspondence for many years.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're both Austrian. Or no, Freud was Freud German and Jung was Austrian. I know Jung was from, where was he from in Austria?
I thought they both were Austrian, but maybe Freud was German.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know Jung is Austrian.
It's the same shit.
Yeah. I mean, Austrians are Catholic, but
yeah.
I think Jung was raised by Lutherans.
Mm.
He hated Jesuits. I know that part.
Okay.
There's a part in his autobiography where he was talking about as like a young kid. He was having insane archetypal dreams as like a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old.
Yeah.
He's having dreams of like castles and phallic symbols at like 4. Like he's just, it's a wild autobiography, which I think would be, I almost would like love to cover that.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
But, he had a memory as a child of like there's like a looming figure appears out of the woods, and he has this beautiful way of describing the terror he felt of this like this menacing figure coming out of the woods, and he's terrified, and he's like he remembers the words of his father, and then he knew that was a Jesuit. And he's like, it's so good. And he like describes the process of his building his weird like castle house that he hand built.
Oh, okay.
He hand built his own like house castle thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think you'd enjoy the autobiography. I think it'd be worth covering sometime. But he does a lot of like dream analysis.
Yes, yeah.
And it's not as like ideologically possessed as Freud is.
Yeah.
I don't think that Jung ever came to like the fullness of his own conclusions or anything. I don't mean to say that, but he definitely recognized that he was incapable of interpreting whatever he was seeing. Like
Yes, yeah.
it's Jung is a different beast than Freud and Lacan and stuff. It's different.
I would even say Lacan is very different than Freud.
Yeah, it's a different.
They are, but I think what they all share is the complexity of the explanations.
Mm-hmm.
Like each one of them wants to give an explanation beyond.
Well, it's like they deal in archetypes.
They do, yes.
And if you're not willing to explain what the archetypes refer to, and they just are self-referential, you have to just build more and more complex system of archetypes.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's what it is. And so each one of those three, even other behaviors at the time, I would say they all are in many ways fundamentally in disagreement of what the explanation is, but the style in which they're trying to get at, I think, they all share the same. It's like they're appealing to much more.
Like Jung and Freud's friendship ended when Jung published some essay that refuted Freud's claims that everything is like mother penis envy.
Yes,
like he essentially said that's bulls, that not everything is sexual repression. And Freud like disowned him.
Yes, right, yeah. And I think that's where you see disagreements, because I think like with Lacan, out of those three, I actually found Lacan the most interesting, but maybe I just have more affinity towards like French way of thinking. But Lacan's was more of an immersion and explosion of within the self.
Yeah.
And like what I tell many people is that I actually don't think any of them say things necessarily wrong.
They're just not right.
I just don't think that it is necessary.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's their explanation goes into a realm where it is possible that those are the reasons why. Like, I do think that there are instances where people behave in a certain way because of sexual repression.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't think that is wrong. But once you try to make the more general claim that is the root of all these behaviors, okay, that's wrong. I don't think that it is wrong that people try to appeal to archetypal natures of whatever something is, but I think many people just don't behave that way. Many, like if you're just talking about the behavior of people, I think many times it's just simple. And the more simple explanation tends to be the more accurate for the general population. And I think what many of these people were, Freud, Lacan, Jung, all three of them were very fucked up people. It's like when you look at their psychology, when you look at what is written about them or what they wrote about themselves, they're weird. And so they extrapolated their weirdness to everybody else. And that's, I think Freud had mother issues. I think Freud was sexually repressed. I think
he was the weirdest one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Jung just had like lucid dreams. I think he was weird. He was a bizarre person.
He had lucid waking dreams for months. He read the Red Book is literally is a huge.
Right.
He literally would like will these lucid dreams.
Yes,
which is insane.
Yeah, and most people
would fuck up your perception of reality.
Of course it does. Right? Yeah. Yes. And I think Lacan...
And it's amazing to read. It's fascinating.
Yes. I think Lacan actually had sexual and maybe just basic corporeal or body dysphoria.
Yeah.
I think he was just fucked. He was a cross-dresser. He was weird. And so everything with each one of their explanations of human behavior was more of a reflection of themselves superimposed onto just like broader claims of everybody. And so like what you were saying with because I didn't know that until now, but it makes more sense now because I do know some of Jung.
What do you mean? Jung literally had a whole phase of his life where he would have literally
I know I knew that about him, but what I mean is I didn't know his relationship with Freud. But but the fact that Jung told Freud not everything is about you wanting to fuck your mother. It's like because he didn't experience that. Freud, I think, did. I think Freud wanted to fuck his mom.
That's why he would disown him for it. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's why everything always referred back to this. He had this weirdness, and so I think a lot of it was more reflection. So I think there are other people that share in it, and so people who share in that, when they read them, find a lot of themselves in it. And so people who have mother issues or daddy issues, and they read Freud, you can't
they really
relate to it. People who have a lot of lucid dreams or religious experiences really do. Someone like Peterson really relate to Jung.
I think that's why I like Jung so much.
Yes, yeah.
And I don't think it's an appreciation I could ever shake if I tried.
Of course, yeah, because it is something that I think he's accurately depicting if you have these qualities.
Yeah.
Right? And I think
so he is speaking to an audience.
He is, yeah. And I think someone like Lacan, those who actually have like sexual dysmorphia or dysphoria, I would say they really do. If you read Lacan, there's more relation to that because his explanations of it, not like this social contagion that we have now, but the ones who actually don't feel like their arm is their actual arm, and they end up cutting it off. Like there's people that actually did that even before like those type of people. When they read Lacan, there's more of a relation in which they can relate to it. And so I think like the behaviorist philosophy isn't necessarily wrong, but it is not.
It's not complete.
It's not complete, nor is it applicable in a large scale. It's only applicable to those who can relate to similar
the time
phenomena.
I read, was it? I don't remember that. It's Memories, Dreams, Reflections.
Yeah.
Is the title of Jung's autobiography. I think it's Memories, Dreams, Memories, Reflections, Reflections, Dreams, Memories. It's some combination of those words.
Yeah.
I read that when I was working on the train. So this is the time I knew Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I know Anne-Marie, but this is kind of when Anne-Marie and my friendship was really flourishing or coming to be what it is now. I read that and then Modern Man in Search of a Soul. I read 2 Jung texts isolated on a train with no cell service. Yeah. And I remember just having these constant like nuclear bomb epiphanies reading it.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be just a reflection of it so accurately depicted my experience and reality.
Yes.
And I think that's why people like, people who Heidegger is like a crock of shit to me.
Yes, yeah.
But people who experience reality
in that way
are like the becoming of art and stuff, or like it's just like being
in the world.
There's it speaks to people in such a way they become like immediately religiously possessed by it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the phenomenology and the behaviorist worldview. Why it's so powerful. I think it's so powerful because those who wrote in that field well wrote it so well that those who have similar experiences can truly relate to it and it better articulates what they've experienced. And I think that's the gift
like
that he gives. Yeah.
And I don't want to say I experience raptures in any way.
Yeah.
But when I read, I think the reason that like St. Teresa of Avila is such a significant figure to me.
Yeah.
When they talk about like her raptures and beatific visions and stuff.
Yeah.
I used to talk about it not frequently, but I've mentioned it several times in kind of the early catalog of the show. Like I will be walking through the grocery store and I'm so overcome by the beauty and fullness of being that I literally can't move.
Yeah.
And I just start like tearing up and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. And like, but when I read about people having these raptures, I'm like, okay, this is a taste of what they're doing.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So they become very, very significant and important to me.
Yes.
And I like project my experience onto them in my identity.
Yes.
And that's what happens with Jung. And that's why I'll always love Jung.
Of course, yeah. And I actually think I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No. As long as you understand what Jung is. And
Yeah.
Or Lacan or Freud or whatever.
Whichever of them they do, I think they're just they're interesting thinkers.
Because they also have like really, really vivid, strange, weird archetypal dreams frequently.
Yeah.
And he writes about that.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it literally does help you make sense of dreams.
Yes, yeah.
He has accurate interpretation. He has accurate comments on dream
Yes.
interpretation.
Yes.
Like one of to interpreting my own dreams, he I don't remember. I don't remember who it was in his autobiography or it wasn't Modern Man in Service.
Well, at least those who have deep
Yeah.
meaning in their dreams. I don't think everybody does, and that's where I think
Yeah.
someone like Deleuze and Guattari are more mainstream.
Yeah.
It's like when you read them, it's like this is how ordinary people think.
Yeah.
You know.
They're like ordinary behaviorists almost.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
like you know, people want to fuck, people want to eat, and people
Yeah.
want to sleep, and
Yeah.
that is the
And I
extent.
don't want to fuck, so like I've got something else
Yes,
going on.
yeah. But I do think that there are people more weird
Yeah.
that have different.
Like me, yeah.
Yes,
fine,
that
that's
have
fine.
different desires for behaviors.
But when like Jung is like goes into, because he did have decades of clinical experience
Yeah.
in walking people through their mental issues.
Yes. Yeah.
And he essentially, he has a lot of writing about how if you are to be a proper psychologist,
Yeah.
a clinical psychologist, you don't enter your relationship with whatever person you're treating with any preconceived notion at all, because you cannot assume anything about their psyche
Yeah.
at all. You cannot have a plan. You just let whatever happens happen.
Yeah.
And he would talk about, like, he had a patient who believed she was living on the moon. She was
Yeah.
cheated on by her husband, and it was a catastrophic
Yeah.
divorce situation. And she was so traumatized that she was like, she literally believed she was on the moon.
Yeah.
And he just let her talk her way through it. And in having a person to articulate her thoughts to physically, she talked herself back onto earth, and then she was normal forever.
Yeah.
And like, just, he was very non-ideological. He just literally wrote observations constantly, but he would talk about, like, in all of his observation, it was never that in a dream a thing was literally what it was.
Yeah.
So if, like, you have a table, it literally reflects a table
Yeah.
of some kind. If it's made of marble, it's marble. It's not that these aren't referring to other things. They just are what they are.
Yeah.
Because it's dreams, and your dreams are unconscious, non-referential thing. It was this whole thing. And I know what my weird archetypal dreams mean now better
Yeah. Yeah.
because of reading Jung. But I
Yes,
have
yeah.
these weird, freakish, intense archetypal dreams
Yeah. Yeah. But
that most people don't
yes.
have.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about it in private and stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I do think that that's where the danger is in the end, because like even with that methodology, that's really what became very popular with many psychologists. So I know at least 5 people who were seeing psychologists, and that just didn't help them. He said all they would do is just listen.
Yeah.
It's like, but they didn't offer me. And so when I spoke to them, me being the brute man that I am, they're like, I never have to see a psychologist again, because I just give it to them in a more pragmatic, just simple sense. I'm like, well, it's because you want this. It's like, oh, it's like, yeah. So what are you gonna do about it? Right? You're gonna do it. You're gonna fuck it. Right?
Yeah.
You're gonna eat it, or you're gonna be a lazy motherfucker.
Get it? You're
Right?
gonna do it? Yeah.
Yeah. Or you're gonna be a man about it. Or you're gonna just start.
Well, that's because most people have their quote unquote psychological issues are just caused by inaction.
That's what I mean. Yes, because most of them
Some people are truly insane.
Yes, and some people are truly insane, and some people can actually get cured, like what you're saying, of just being listened to by somebody and then working themselves way back. I think there are dynamics.
There's no pattern.
Yeah, there's no pattern, but I do think that there are norms, and I would say 80% of the population probably do not function the way the behaviorist, like whenever the behaviorists give an example, they always give the most extreme examples. You know, I have never met somebody that wanted to cut off their arm.
Yeah.
You read Lacan, it's like everybody wants to cut off their arm. You know, I've never met somebody that wanted to fuck their mom. You read Freud, it is like you think that is everybody. I've met a few, but not that many people that have lucid dreams. But in that way, it makes you think that everything is meaningful. And the issue is that I just don't think that's applicable universally. I think many people have meaningless dreams. I think it's spawned by a basic desire that they have, and they're just thinking about it, and they go to sleep, and then it gets incorporated in their thoughts, and then it appears.
It's
a certain
memories,
way.
dreams, reflections.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, and so there's like
Damn it! They don't have an audiobook of it.
But yeah, and so it's one of the issues that I have with them. It isn't that I think they're necessarily wrong. It's just that I don't think it's universally applicable.
No one should ever treat it as a complete.
I just don't think it's universally.
Almost, yeah.
It's not universally applicable. I think it's applicable to a niche market.
Yeah.
I think these people were trained psychologists that treated a lot of fucked up people, and they themselves were weird.
Yeah.
And so it projected to attempt to make universal propositions out of weirdness. And it's like, that doesn't, it's just, no. You know, I mean, people that watch the Kardashians.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to apply anything deep to them.
No.
I'm just not. Right? If they say they come to me with having a dream, I'm like, were you hungry? Did you go to bed hungry? Yeah, maybe. Okay.
No.
Next time, have a midnight snack and then go to sleep.
Do I have a recent dream journal? I like write. If I wake up and have dreams, I generally write them down if I don't text them to somebody.
Oh, okay.
But damn. 7 days?
7 days ago?
No.
Those things you're not wanting to say out loud, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
No. I'm just seeing what notes I have.
Yeah.
When the last time I wrote a dream down, I have so many dreams written in my phone. I'm like, I'm like driving to my grandparents' house in my car, and then there's a sea of people.
Yeah.
I suddenly find myself driving through a sea of people, and they all start screaming at me and breaking the windows in my car. Like driving my car like a funeral procession with many of my own same cars.
Yeah.
It's me in like a train of myself driving cars, and this giant sea of people is smashing the windows on all of them, and each different versions of myself are being killed. And I'm like, no one has dreams like this.
Yeah.
Like, what does this mean?
Yeah. Most people can't even remember their dreams.
Yeah.
Like I remember my dream. I dream daily.
I do if I sleep well.
Yeah. Like I dream daily, and I mean, it's rare when I don't remember my dreams, but it's just
they're just mundane.
Yeah, some of them are.
I'll have dreams
not like that
where I'm sitting in the home of my mom's best friend, who I know personally, but it's not actually her house, and we're in the downstairs, but it's her house, and there's crystal windows, prism windows everywhere.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Nazis, like SS officers, come down, and we have to run through the glass doors and they're like mirrored. And then we run out of the doors because we're running from the SS. And then we find ourselves in like a funhouse mirror crystal maze. And we're like running from SS officers.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
It's like never coherent.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, that just gets bizarre. But yeah, for many people that I spoke to, they don't even remember.
Yeah.
They would say I never dream. I was like, well, I believe psychologists say that people dream every day, but most people don't remember. Because like you don't stop thinking,
No.
And so there's always some kind of thought that happens.
Yeah. But they're unconscious.
Yeah. But they're not fully aware of them. Yeah. I remember like
I do think it's important to the concept of the unconscious at all is Freudian.
Right, yeah.
So he's not completely wrong.
No, that's what I mean.
That's an accurate thought.
Yeah. And I remember there's many times that I wake myself up from a dream. Yeah. It's like, you will yourself awake. And
do you ever deal with like sleep paralysis stuff?
Yes, yeah.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
How frequently?
Oh, probably a few times every 5 years. Not that often.
I'm like once a week.
Are you? Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
That's part of why I don't sleep right.
No, not that often.
No.
It's normally something. There has to be a significant change in my existence for me to have that, I think. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just get it.
Do you? Yeah. Yeah, so it's normally related to like a move.
Probably once a month, to every 2 weeks. Yeah.
Somebody dies. It's like those type of things. And then
you're like, someone's watching me. I can't move. I guess
I just can't move, and I'm aware that I'm...
Oh, but nothing's like watching you.
Sometimes there'll be like, it's like this weird thing where you feel yourself unable to move and you kind of try to shake your head and just, ugh, and then you could try to wake yourself up, but you're not, and you can't. It's like a weird, almost seizure-like state.
Oh, mine are way worse than that.
Are they? Yeah.
I'll be like fully awake in the room in a dream, but like corporeally aware. And there will be like a floating figure floating towards the bed slowly. And I'm like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit.
Yeah, I don't
I'm like,
have that.
I'm like, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Yeah,
wake up.
mine is normally the wake up. But it's
or
never
like
a
someone's face is right here. And I'm like, holy fuck, shit, fuck, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Yeah,
and then I wake up and I like shoot forward and I'm like sweating.
Oh, are you?
Oh yeah, it's like every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Every 3 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible.
No, I don't have that.
Oh yeah, it's bad. That's what I mean by sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Or like there will be like a dozen people standing like around my bed, like watching me.
Yeah.
I'm like sitting there, like I can't like move.
No,
Please,
yeah.
please move. Stop. Please.
Yeah,
move.
that's the part that's
they're watching me. Please move.
To me, that's the worst part about sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Is that your inability to move, but you're aware.
Yeah, but I'm like having hallucinations half asleep.
Yeah.
Like people's faces coming through the ceiling and stuff. Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, I think that's the price I pay for like weird beauty raptures is that I have extreme horrible dreams.
Yeah, I don't have too many nightmares. Most of my dreams are happy.
Oh, they're not. No, more of them. It's just sleep paralysis. I don't have nightmares.
Well, I mean, if somebody's like staring at you, that's
it's a sleep. It's a sleep paralysis. It's literally sleep paralysis. Is kind of what that's considered.
Yeah.
I guess it is a nightmare, but it's not like.
No, I mean, but I had sleep paralysis, but there isn't a weird figure staring at me. It's just my inability to move, and I'm aware of it.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah. I'm aware I can't move, but I'm also like dreaming that there's a person like.
Yeah, like I'm not really dreaming, but it's not a scary one. It's just kind of like
one of the worst ones ever. It was past couple months, I think.
Yeah,
was I had that big desk that Joe helped me move into the room. I woke up and there was like a figure. So imagine I'm in my bed, which is, if this is the bedroom like this, there's the desk and my bed's here. Yeah. And I wake up and I can see, like if I'm laying down, I can look at the desk like this and there's someone just sitting on it. And he's just sitting on it. And he's just like, I can't make out any features because it's so dark. And he's just like a silhouette almost, but it's so dark. I don't know if it's a silhouette or it's just a light or something. And I'm like, he's watching me, and I'm alone in the room, and I'm like staring, and I'm like, wake up, and he's just like, and it's just the horror like builds, and then eventually I'm like able to wake up, and I like fly out of bed, and I'm like sweating bullets and stuff, and then it takes me like an hour to fall back asleep because I'm like, it's so bad, Like I remember one dream. That was probably the scariest one. Was I dreamt that one of my daughters died. Yeah. And then like I saw her fall down and she broke her neck, and then I grabbed her in my arms, and then at that point I like was trying to scream, and then I fell into a sleep paralysis where I was awake but I was still dreaming that I was holding my dead daughter. Yeah. And I didn't want it to be real so bad that I just kept saying, this is a dream, and I would want to wake myself up. And I ended up waking myself up. But when I did wake up, I was literally sweating. Yeah. Because the intensity of and I was like, tears were falling from my eyes because of that. That was probably the most, in terms of like nightmarish sleep paralysis that I ever had. Most of my sleep paralysis is just kind of like something weird happens, to the point that I'm kind of aware that I am asleep, and you still are within that dream state, but then you're aware of your physical body and able to move, and then you just kind of like force yourself to wake up, and it just gives me an excruciating headache when I do. Yeah, it's something
horrible.
Extremely extreme, like maybe every 3 days. Yeah, is I fall into, and I don't know. I have a really, really bad sleep history. Like I've always had extremely hard time sleeping. Okay. My dad was an extreme insomniac. He was on a highest dose possible Ambien regimen for his. Yeah. I was on a high dose Ambien regimen through a lot of high school. Like I really bad sleep. Yeah. I essentially have to drug myself to sleep every night.
It's weird.
It's weird. I don't know why that happens, but that's actually one reason. Like my dad, he was like really not into alcohol, but he had a little bit of an alcohol problem because he craved drowsiness. He like just that to me, like if any like Benadryl or alcohol or whatever, anything that makes me drowsy, that's the substance. Like it's if like I'm not saying I am or I have any reason to. It would be very hard to dissuade myself from buying Ambien off the street. Like it really, like genuinely, like I crave drowsiness because it's a beautiful sensation that I don't get unless I medicate myself. I just don't sleep.
Did you ever wonder whether your father had sodomist propensities?
No. He really liked women.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely not. He probably suffered from issues with women, if anything. But
okay, yeah.
From what I know, like no, definitely not. But yeah, I don't think it's genetic. If that's what you're asking.
No, not whether it's genetic, but whether he had similar like psychological. No. Yeah.
To the point that's comedic. No, and I mean that realistically.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's because of the way I sleep badly, but I have very, very frequently have dream like to the point that anyone who's slept in the same bed as me for any amount of nights in a row or whatever, even my sisters commented on it when we shared a room.
Yeah.
I'll like jolt myself awake, like because I frequently fall into these half awake dream states where I'm walking or I'm going up and down stairs, and then I trip, and then I jolt myself awake.
Yeah,
constantly.
Do you ever think? Because
I constantly trip in these weird.
Yeah,
I'm like.
Because sometimes I wonder about this, and I myself have zero explanation or whatever. But I do like to ask. Do you ever wonder whether that's simply a phenomena of the contemporary or at least modern world, maybe the last 150 years? Like, like I wonder whether that kind of psychological issues really existed prior to maybe the 1800s.
I don't think it was a psychological issue because I don't think there is any inherent sin in desiring the hypermasculine.
No, I'm not talking about sodomy. I'm talking about sleep issues.
Oh.
Yeah, like sleep issues. Because to me, it just seems weird. Like, I don't know if I've ever read any text before the 1800s where people actually had sleep problems. And maybe they did and didn't record it, but I've never encountered that. And I wonder if that's a phenomena of maybe more leisure than people had in the past, or...
It's very hard to sleep if you don't do anything throughout the day.
Yeah.
It feels wrong.
It feels wrong to sleep, yeah. Yeah, because it seems...
What are you recovering from?
Right.
Nothing? Being at all?
Yeah. Just breathing and eating.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that I know that have sleep problems.
I don't know. I've thought the same.
Yeah, because I personally don't, but virtually everybody that I know do.
Well, I mean, sex is disordered now.
Yeah.
Eating is disordered now.
Right.
Why would sleep not also be disordered now?
That's a good question. Yeah,
because those are generally when you talk about your experiences of God is
sex, and
sleep. Yeah, so why would sleep not be disordered?
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe. I don't know. Yeah, maybe too much idleness causes people's inability to sleep.
But it also too much idleness would lead people to like sexual deviancy, boredom.
As well, too, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, it's just something that I find kind of interesting because I just hear it so often. So many people say they have to take Ambien. So many people say that they just can't sleep. Relatives, family members that I know, there's the same
Which is
thing.
weird because I was suffering from that stuff before I would have been working or anything. It was just...
I know, that's what I mean. People start taking it since 14, 15, 15, 16.
I think it's a medication issue.
Yeah.
I think that Ambien is addictive, and it ruins your ability to fall asleep naturally. I think that fucked up my ability to sleep normally.
Really? Yeah.
I think I got off of it at an early enough age.
How young were you when you started?
15, which is really early, but it was, and I think I probably stopped around 17, 18.
Oh,
okay. Which is, so it's what's interesting about Ambien. And I think that so Ambien, if you don't go to sleep, you do freak weird stuff.
Yeah, he told me about that.
Yeah, it's just so many weird. It should not be legal to prescribe that to people. Like it's weird. But, like you thought blacking out on alcohol was weird. Like if you don't go to sleep with Ambien, you stay awake for a very long time after you black out. Like it's bad. But so the reason, like,
I've never blacked out on alcohol.
No, I have one time. It was recording with Slurp Gang. It was afterward. I remember like waking up and I'm like, I thought I fell asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
That was the only time ever. It was with Derek.
Yeah.
It was Derek, Jay, Cotton, Nick, Ace, and Derek and I kept joking about how we ran the show now because we were bantering so much.
Yeah.
And Derek got so drunk he had to leave the recording. And I guess I should, I don't remember, but I remember being done. And then I remember laying down on the couch.
Yeah.
Kind of. And then I woke up in bed and I was like, whoa. No hangover. I don't know what that's about. I don't get hungover. No headache or any whatever. Just remember being like, I do not remember any of that after hanging up the call. Like, I know I laid down on the couch, I think, but now I'm here. And it was very weird. But so alcohol gives you, like a euphoric thing.
Yeah.
Marijuana, it does a similar, it's a different thing of the same degree of intoxication at the proper levels. It's the same thing. It's like it relieves you of anxiety of the anxiety of inhibition and judgment, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Heroin like makes you like hyper euphoric and stuff.
Yeah.
But then like Ambien gives you the most heavenly sensation of drowsiness. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Imagine drowsiness, the sensation of drowsiness pulsating through your veins.
Yeah.
The same way that alcohol does with what alcohol does.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're just like, it's like you have been injected with sleepiness. And if you're someone who has struggles with ever feeling drowsy, it's incredible.
Yes, yeah.
My number one favorite corporeal sensation is Ambien.
Oh, really?
Number one.
Yeah. It's impressive.
I will not do it.
Yeah.
But oh my God. And it's like you are aware your body is going to sleep. It is so good. Which is weird because that just sounds like weird to people who don't get it.
Yeah.
But if you struggle with insomnia and stuff, it is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's like weird to know that there's like a substance I could develop a problem with if I let myself.
Right. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I was in like a high dose of it for years.
Yeah.
So even now I don't know how to go to sleep right. I just wait.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good explanation. I guess that could ruin it.
Yeah, and it like taking like melatonin. Like if you take too much melatonin for a while, it like nukes your body's ability to produce it.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you know. It's melatonin is the natural chemical compound that your body produces when it's time for sleep. It's the, like I know serotonin and stuff has been, we're rapidly reconsidering what we think of brain chemicals and stuff, especially since SSRIs have been exposed as bullshit and stuff.
Which I've been saying since.
Yes, yeah. But the fact that a study comes out and it's like, wait, SSRIs are actually bullshit.
Yeah.
But the brain chemicals do exist and they do have a function.
Yes, yeah.
But melatonin is the one that your body produces when it has to do with circadian rhythms.
Oh, okay.
With the times your body naturally becomes tired and wakes up and stuff.
Yeah.
And it generally follows the cycle of the sun rising and setting and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you because the way we sleep is not natural, going to bed at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. is like not natural.
Yeah.
Normally people would, sleep from 1 a.m., 2 a.m. to like 9 a.m. or something. It's like the normal.
Well, like me, I go to sleep by 1 a.m. and wake up at 6.
Yeah.
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 Which I think is normal. I mean, at least for sleepers like me is normal. Because I never use an alarm.
Because if I were to just sleep how I would normally sleep, it's 1 a.m. to 8.
Yeah.
Kind of in that range. It's very, very, very unnatural to go to sleep at 10
Oh,
p.m.
I agree. Yeah. I can't. If I go to sleep at 10, I wake up at 2. I wake up at 2 or 3, and I cannot go back to sleep.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You have to be up until midnight at least.
I know. Yes. No, I agree.
But if you take too much melatonin, which is the reason one would take melatonin, practically speaking and correctly, is to alter your circadian rhythm.
Okay.
If you take too much, it inhibits your body's ability to produce its own melatonin. So you like screw up your body's ability to maintain its own circadian rhythm. So then you just have to take this supplement forever.
Yeah, which isn't good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Which is why I'm never drowsy. So I literally have to take all this stuff to like make myself drowsy.
Really? Yeah.
I'll just be up literally all night. I'll go to sleep at like 4 or 5 a.m. and wake up at 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
No,
Then I feel like garbage, but it just happens.
Yeah. No, I just will myself to sleep.
Yeah.
But
well, you just have a mother looming over you with a flip-flop or whatever.
No, with a belt. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's something that I never really suffered from, but I like I said, most people that I know, even like some of my brothers, have a hard time sleeping, and I've always just found that kind of bizarre. I was like, I don't get it. I could just, if it's bedtime, I'm like, okay, lay my head down and just go.
Nope.
Yeah,
not me.
And when people like need to put snooze in an alarm, I was like, alarm?
I have to constantly.
Yeah,
I snooze it like 6 times. Yeah.
I always set the alarm so I don't oversleep, but the amount of times that I need the alarm to wake up is very...
What's weird is if I set my alarm wrong, like I use a 24-hour clock as much as possible to...
Yeah, that's what I use. Yeah.
To make sure I don't do the 7 p.m. instead of 7 a.m. or whatever.
Oh, yes, yeah.
If I set it, I'll still wake up 15 minutes after I was supposed to set the alarm anyway.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
You feeling good?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I need to drive home. So.
100th episode.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Bye-bye season 3.
And Patreon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, subscribe to the Patreon and stuff. You know.
And give us a good review.
Yeah, please just review on the Apple Podcast. If you listen anywhere else, I don't care because we didn't. It was fine anywhere else. But we'll see you next week for season 4.
Yes.
Have exciting content to come sooner than you might expect.
Yes.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.